And now on Who's Views, it's time for the latest headlines with JT and the Whotastic panel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Who's Views. It's your big show. It's Wednesday's headlines. It is indeed Wednesday, the 30th of April, 2025. Isn't this year zooming by? Start of May coming up very soon, everybody. Wow. Can't quite believe it. It's been a lovely day here in the UK today. So hopefully you've had some good sun around the UK. And if you have, I hope you've been enjoying it. Probably been working, haven't you? But let's hope it lasts for a little bit longer. We have got a great big show for you tonight because have you heard? Yes. The Consolidateds, as well as the Overnights, are all in. Bedweer will be here with his latest ratings and analysis coming up very, very soon. Joining me this evening, though, oh, yes, it's Paul. Let's bring him on. Hello, Paul. How are you?
Hello there. Not bad. How are you?
Oh, I'm fabulous because it was a sunny day.
Yeah. I'm thinking as well, there's only 5 more episodes to go and the season's finished. Yay! That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
Gosh, It is going very quickly, though, isn't it?
Not quick enough, sadly, but yeah.
Well, I've got 4.
Yeah. You've got 4, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll talk to you about 5. It's fine. It's like you've still got 5. Yeah, really.
We've got 5 of our shows, 4 of theirs for me. But yeah, in case you don't know, everybody, I am not watching the Interstellar Song Contest. I refuse to watch Juno Dawson's episode on principle because he's a well-known homophobe, and I'm not going to do it. But I am looking forward to coming back on that particular show here on Who's Views and listening to what the Whotastic panel have all got to say about it. It'd be a little bit different for us. I'll tell you what else isn't different, though, Paul. Have you seen this? Have you all in the chat seen it? Good evening to you all, by the way. Nice to see you all. Thanks for joining us. But this made me laugh. Don't they ever learn? Yes, Wishworld and the Reality War, the 2-episode finale, BBC Studios this week announced it's going to the pictures.
Yes. Yeah. The bizarre thing is, if you didn't know better, that's quite an attractive poster. Looks quite exciting. I just wish it were good. But who's going to watch this? How many audience will they have?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be the same as last year when you saw the pictures of all the strange people there with their pronouns and their multicolored hair.
The people who are in Lux, you mean? Those characters.
It's going to be very, very strange, isn't it? But did you see that, everybody, in the chat? The press release said BBC Studios and Cinema Live bring fans together for an in-cinema screening experience of Wishworld and the Reality War on Saturday, the 31st of May. The Doctor returned this spring with a new addition to the TARDIS, Belinda, taking viewers on another thrilling journey through time and space. Not that I've noticed that yet, I have to say. Don't know about you, Paul.
I'm with you on that one, yes.
It says here, as the season draws to a close, fans across the UK and Ireland will have the opportunity to come together in cinemas to watch the epic 2-part finale on the 31st of May, starting with the penultimate episode, Wishworld, and then ending with the Reality War, both written by RTD and directed by Alex Stingiv-Palal. The tickets, if you are very interested, are on sale now, and you can get them from doctorwhoincinemas.co.uk. Not really going to plug that again.
Do you have a price for them out of interest?
No, it's enough.
No. I just wonder, because I wonder how much you pay for that, because going to cinema isn't a cheap experience, is it, really, generally? And if you buy treats and things while you're there, it's almost a mortgage payment, isn't it, just about?
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. And it's always very expensive, isn't it, to do these things? Anyway, has anybody in the chat actually done this? There was further to this. It said Natasha Spence, who's the events director at BBC Studios, she commented, "We're delighted to be partnering with Cinema Live once again and give Doctor Who fans across the UK and Ireland the opportunity to watch their favourite show together. This finale promises to be an amazing ride for Whovians," I hate that term, "and we're excited to share the Doctor and Belinda's latest adventures with them on the big screen." John Travers, who's the head of acquisitions and distribution for Cinema Live, said, "Following the success of last year's Midnight Cinema event, we're excited to be working with BBC Studios to ensure that this time round, Doctor Who fans of all ages," doesn't know what the BBC's been up to, "are able to share in the epic experience of watching the 2-part season finale on the big screen." So there you go. If you're desperate, if you're interested,
The
to go and
bizarre
see
thing is, it
cinema.
doesn't make it better being on a big screen, does it? Let's be honest. It doesn't matter where you watch it, to be
No,
honest.
it's still shooting camera, isn't it?
Yeah, if it's anything like the finale of last season, I'm not holding my breath, you know?
Well, yeah. Did you say it was the big success of last year? Big success.
Yeah.
I mean, we showed some of the pictures, didn't we, Who viewers? Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness. Talking about the Who viewers, let's see how you're all reacting to that. There's lots of you in the chat. It's good to see you. Nice to see you. Mudcrab is saying, oh, the lava planet looks stupid. I like the other poster. What, the take her home one?
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah, the one that has wonderful pastiches of, you've probably seen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Rose Kirby. How are you? I'm Matt the Silent Music King saying, starring Viraja Setu as the enigmatic doctor and Ncuti Gatwa. You got that the wrong way around, silly. Yeah, I know what you're trying to do. That's fine. John Mason is saying this is Snow White all over again. And Anthony Parkinson is saying, imagine paying to see an RTD finale. Lee Smith, seeing Gatwa go on a big screen is tempting. And Raymond Williams is pointing out, says people are not watching Doctor Who for free, i.e. on the BBC.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Forbidden Man, look at these two excited, can't wait to get their tickets. Yeah, no, thrilled.
Yeah.
I'll be first in the line, Forbidden Man. Do that again, Paul.
That was my Wallace and Gromit moment. That's
very good, isn't it?
Well, that's one of that, isn't it? Yeah.
That's a 10 out of 10 Who viewers, that impression, isn't it? It's very good. John, hello, John. The cinema screening will be a complete humiliation. Everyone will be posting how hardly any seats have been booked. Do you remember last year, though, that they tended to show the ones only of the one in London? And it was quite packed. It's a little cinema.
Yeah. It's a tiny studio, about 50-seater or something, and they'll CGI the rest of the audience to make it bigger, won't they? You know?
Yeah, probably. And then they'll spend a huge amount of budget on that one as well. Julianne Goodwin is saying, does fans of this series come together? Will they need more than one cinema? Well, they're going for it across the country.
They would need just a sofa, surely. That's all they need. Yeah.
You can fit them all on. And Anthony Steinland was about £15 last year. It rings a bell, actually. It does ring a bell, about £15. It's not cheap. Domgo, I have too much pride and self-respect to be seen at a place like that. And bring Who's Views to the cinema, says George. Oh, there's a challenge for me.
Oh, right, yes.
That would be quite fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That would be quite fun. Good suggestion there, George. Someone broke into my car, says Timkins. I had 2 tickets for the finale in there, and a burglar broke in and and out in 2 more tickets. Yes, okay. Well, what else have we got there? It's good to see you all. Rose is saying to us, hi. I wonder if they'll beat the 500 that was at the Derby Showcase Cinema. Don't forget, it started at 10 o'clock at night and finished at 1:45 a.m. I'm not sure when this one starts, because it didn't actually say on the press release, because on the press release, it said you had to go to all this sort of stuff and listen to it. And I couldn't be bothered, guys, honestly.
The bizarre thing about it always amazes me, if this is it on the night of the finale itself, the date?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. So it'll already been broadcast, won't it? And it'll be already on iPlayer even before you go to the cinema. So it's like...
It must be again. It's the screening starts at 6 o'clock with Wishworld, followed by the Reality War on the 31st of May.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. So it's after then. Yeah. So basically, these fans would have seen. They would have been on iPlayer at the morning anyway, surely. So they're going for the social aspect, aren't they? That's what they're going for. Allegedly, yeah.
Yeah, allegedly. Let's have a look. Hello, Mark. Thank you for your super chat, Mark Greaves. Midnight screening was about as successful as the Titanic Maiden's Voyage. Not saying anything about that one at all. And George is saying, yeah, it's released on iPlayer at 8 a.m. this one. Yeah, they're not going to change that one.
No.
I'm sure they're not going to change that one. But yeah, PTA, Paul Thomas Ashford with hello all. Whose views would be more entertaining at the pictures? Well, get a bigger telly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
lights down. And yeah, that's great. So let's have a look at it. Now, I don't know if you saw this one, everybody. This was something that I thought tied in beautifully with this particular show, where Bedweir is going to be with us in a couple of minutes with his ratings analysis update. But this made me laugh. Do you remember a few shows ago, Paul, we were talking about Cope?
Yes, or lack of, yes.
Yeah. This is another example of that. Did you see this one, everybody? From the course, the wonderful thegloriousradiotimes.com. Doctor Who's overnight ratings confirmed. Figures bounce back with The Well. Season 15 returned to BBC One with episode 3 titled The Well on Saturday. Season 15 of Doctor Who saw a substantial bounce in the overnight ratings for the third episode, rebounding from last week's series low. The Well aired on BBC One at 6:50 on Saturday, the 26th of April, and received an overnight rating of 1.9 million viewers. Now, there it is again, the 1.9, because there was confusion on Sunday if you were watching our show there. So that's going to be cleared up with Bedweer as well.
I'm going to ask Bedweer what a substantial bounce actually means, because that makes nonsense, isn't it?
Well, as long as we keep it clean.
Yeah, of course. Yes, of course.
Yes,
I'm sure you will. Yeah.
Children watching.
Yeah.
Hello, children. Nice to see you, boys and girls. Hello. Got a story for you a bit later. We've got this continuing as well from the Radio Times. That's a huge bump from last week's episode Lux, which drew only 1.58 million viewers, marking the lowest overnight viewership ratings in the show's history. In total, The Well was only the fourth most watched programme of the day, behind ITV's Britain's Got Talent and the 1% Club, and the second most watched on BBC One. Of course, it's worth noting that these figures don't take into account anyone who watched the episode on demand on BBC iPlayer, where it landed at 8 on Saturday prior to its BBC One broadcast. The consolidated ratings, which include iPlayer devices and catch-up, will always be unveiled at a later date. They always have to put that nonsense in it.
Yeah.
But did you all that wording? It's just huge, big, massive. They're really pushing the propaganda there, right? It's all subliminal, to say.
Yeah, I don't know. They can't say it's a tiny whimper of a kind of rise in figures, because that's all it is. I know Bedweer will tell us exactly how many it's been, but it's not that much at all, is it? Let's be honest. It's desperation, really.
It is desperation. That's a good word. It really was. And I just thought, oh my goodness, what's going on? Paul Schlefter is saying, I read somewhere the BBC weren't putting these episodes on iPlayer. Oh, they're not putting the last two on iPlayer.
Oh, right.
Garbage saying to us it's not on iPlayer. Really? Oh, I hadn't seen this at all. That's what I get for working.
Well, they're trying to encourage people to go to the cinema to watch it then. That's what they're trying to do. Yeah.
Or maybe they're trying to push it onto the BBC for the last ones to try and up the figures.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know.
If it is the last one of Mr. Gatwa's tenure, very short tenure, I have to say.
Well, maybe that could be it. If they're trying to keep it from an 8 a.m. release so everybody's watching an experience at the same time, it could be some sort of silliness like that, isn't it? Does anybody
and if that is the case, I mean, I have no attachment to this doctor whatsoever. I couldn't care less if he, I care if he goes. I want him to go rather than stay, but I've no connection. I won't have that emotional connection like Tom and Legopolis or whatever. You know what I mean? It's
it's not the same. And he's not the doctor, though, is he?
He's not.
Mark A. Wright, both iPlayer and Disney Plus will be releasing the last episode at the same time as BBC One and the cinema, I believe. That's going to be interesting when it comes to the ratings and Bedweer's rating analysis. It really will up. 1.85 bounce back, said John Mason. And Forbidden Man, still back with the cinema theme. Ice Warriors, Ices, get your Ices. Yeah, they'll be there. They'll be selling them because that's their new business, because they're not allowed to take over universes or anything anymore. Bill Lowry saying, bounce back to still less than 2 million. Yeah. It's not looking good for them. Boing, time for bed, said Zebedee. Rick Storm telling us there. And Bounce Back, says Stephen Braddock, but as the title of Alan Partridge's book that got pulped, it says it all. Oh, you're all having a good one of this. Let's have a look at some Turk love. Hello. Note, no mention in this RT article about TVs being left on after the football. We're going to be talking about that in just a second. And Time Lord Victoria's with us. Hello, Milo. Oh my God, 300k is such a massive increase. Doctor Who is back. Gatwa is awesome. This is the best episode ever. You've all got a lot of theories as to why, of course, the ratings went for this one went up a bit. They're all good ones as well. Hello to Dread Newt. Nice to see you. The cope is real from RTD because he knows he effed up by telling the fans Doctor Who ain't for them when we were the only ones watching his show. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. You don't go slagging off a fan base. It
serves him right. He got what he deserved, definitely.
And all these idiots, that's what they've been doing to various shows over the last 7-8 years. And look where they all are now. They're all in the toilet. Do you know, I was saying, Paul, last Saturday afternoon, I went to my local cinema to see the 20th anniversary edition of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Was it good? Did you enjoy it?
I did. It was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. And I'd forgotten because I hadn't seen it at the cinema for 20 years. I saw it once at the cinema all those years ago. So you get used to it, don't you, on your telly and stuff?
Yeah.
So to see it again, I've forgotten how glorious it looks on a big screen, and the colors were rich and it was coming through, and it's a big long film, as we all know, but I didn't notice the time because I'm engrossed in the story. Really enjoyed it. Have you seen how much money it's earned? It's more, I think, than the latest 3 nonsense things that they put out. Disney must be rubbing their hands, and it's not even anything to do with them.
That wouldn't surprise me, because fans want Star Wars to be back, like we do for Doctor Who, to be back as it used to be remembered. You know, and that goes to show a bit like the classic collection of Blu-rays that are coming out. There's a market for what that we're looking for as fans for Doctor Who and Star Wars, aren't we? You know what, we want it back to the way it was. I remember seeing in the cinema the last half an hour, 40 minutes are wonderful when everything's tied together for episode 4. It's absolutely brilliant. Love it, you know.
Yeah, because you have to get through those first 2 to get to that particular point. Because but it just shows you that it. And there's other things out there, isn't there, Who viewers that are making money from 20, 30 years ago, because the new lot aren't, because they're rehashing ideas and stuff, and they're not listening, they're not learning. No. So when you look at the complete and utter nonsense of Snow White, and then you've got the huge success of Star Wars Episode 3, a film from 20 years ago. Why aren't they looking at the fact? Why isn't entertainment, the show business industry, looking at this going, we're doing something wrong? Why do they insist it's all of us doing something wrong? It's shocking, isn't it? Yeah. Just Jordan saying to us, can we have a cinematic ratings analysis in response? If we get figures for that sort of stuff, yes, we can. We'll sort it out. And Digby Strawbridge, thank you for your super chat. Oh my God, Babes, I Shrunk That Audience. That sounds like a title.
Sounds like a great title. Yeah. If you do a cinema account, Ben, we'd have stand outside the door with a clicker, wouldn't we? People in like that.
Yeah. We'll get him a branded Who's Views clicker. Thanks for that, Digby. And Jason, hello, Jason Parker. Radio Times desperately reaching. I can't say that. With Sycophant Central. Is that right? Sycophant Central.
I think so, yes. Yeah.
1.9 is substantial. To top it off, a show which brought 1.58 is being screened on cinemas. Dear 1989, 1.58 is a bounce back. And hello to Duckula, the second worst overnight ever. What a win not. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sheila, being in the devotions. I did have a lovely time. It was lovely to see it, and I had a nice scream.
Oh, nice.
It was lovely. Who's this? Hello to Pyrolite. Hello, nice to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. Thank you for joining our chat. It is obvious they are intentionally trying to destroy the IPs as part of the left-wing communist ideology. Well, yeah. You've come to the right channel. There's definitely something with these obsessed, lunatic, extreme far leftists. As I've said many times in many of my rants, they are off their hinges, aren't they? They just don't know what reality is anymore. Totally deluded. And
it's not just Disney doing it. Other franchises, Star Trek. I've not seen more recent Star Trek. From what I hear, a lot of it's not been that great either. So they're really killing the franchises. Really, something rotten, which is such a shame, because so many good things.
They are good shows, and all they care about is money and churning it out. I think. I think they're
content, as it's called. Yeah.
And I think they're just taking the pee out of all the fans, and yet the fans aren't investing in it, as we know from Doctor Who and Star Wars and Star Trek. The fans won't invest. So your money's down. If you just produced the show properly, like in our case with Doctor Who, if they just produced Doctor Who, it would earn a fortune. If it was good stories, a good lead actors, thrilling adventures in time and space with monsters and stuff like that, as it used to be, you'd have more fans, you'd have less fans arguing, and you'd be earning more money because we invest in the merchandise, for heaven's sake.
Yeah. Because I've still been interested to see how, I don't know if you have any figures for how well Shooty and Millie figures sold when they came out last year. I've been interested to see how many are still left. So
I think there's quite a few from what I hear, because you can still get them. You can still get them. So they must have a warehouse of them somewhere.
They must have, yeah.
Let's get on to this then, because we started the conversation nicely. Thank you all for joining us. It's great to see you. Don't forget, if you are new to the channel, please subscribe. Really appreciate it. If you aren't new to the channel, please make sure you're still subscribed. Really appreciate that as well. Give us a thumbs up for it as well. And it is that time. Yes, Wednesday's headlines. Let's bring him on. It's time for the latest update with Bill Weir. Here he is then with the scores on the doors. How are you?
Good evening. Yes, I'm live this week. I'm here. ready to answer questions. And I'll start with just Jordan's question about the cinema taking. So we don't get, I guess, tickets sold. We get the amount it makes on a box office weekend. I think we talked about the last time they tried this and compared it to the Day of the Doctor, and it wasn't anywhere near.
It was nowhere near it, was it? We did that last year, didn't we?
So and now we have those figures. They are saved on my various spreadsheets, so we will add this year's attempt and see how it compares.
Yeah, and Bedouin knows how cinemas works as well, because he's worked in that side of the industry as well, so he knows what to look for. So listen, thank you for this one again. This is a really interesting one as well, because of course we had a slight increase.
Yeah.
But we did this time last year as well, didn't we?
We did indeed. So we're going to see, plenty of graphics this evening, but there is certainly a trend, which, if we look at it, we'll see if Series 15 is going to buck that trend or whether it's going to continue.
So is that my cue for the first slide?
Yeah, might as well. Check out the first slide up.
Here we go then, everyone.
So this is a combination of both Series 14 and Series 15 episodes. So taking out the Christmas specials. So as you can see, we've got the blue line, which is our overnights. Our green line is the +7s, and then our +28s is purple on the top. So that's why there's 3 separate lines. We can see that for Series 14, okay, if we take Space Babies and The Devil's Cord together, let's count that as week 1 because they were shown on the same night.
Yes.
We then had a drop for Boom, which was week 2, and then 73 Yards, which was week 3, saw an uplift. And we've seen exactly the same pattern. This year, we've only got The Robot Revolution. In week 1, week 2, we've seen a drop, and The Well, we've seen an increase in week 3. Just on the overnight so far, but it's an increase. Both 73 Yards and The Well coincided with football being on BBC One beforehand.
There we go, you see. Yeah.
The pattern is there. What happened after 73 Yards was it dropped, continued dropping, and then it picked back up for the finale. It'll be fascinating to see next week, whatever. Is it Lucky Day? Whatever it's called.
Lucky Day this week, yeah.
Oh, there we go. So, we'll see if Lucky Day continues an upward trajectory or whether it drops back down again.
I have to say, Who Views, and I hope you agree, these graphics that Bedouin puts together for us absolutely show it 100% very clearly.
This is the difference. So when you read, pieces like the Radio Times, they don't include this context. They're just describing numbers that, it's a boost, it's an uplift, it's an increase. Yes, factually, that's correct. But you've got to have the wider context. And we're going to look at other stuff later on and different measurements and different scales of, looking at the audience. Yeah. But you've got to have a wider context than just, it was bigger than last week, rather. And okay, they found another 100,000 visitors, whatever it was, 280,000 viewers. Yeah, they found an 18% increase from Lux, which is great, I guess. But when you're working,
would you describe it as a bounce back? Would you?
No, because it matches the pattern as we've just outlined from the previous year, again, which coincided with a game of football. And the story going around last year was TV sets being left on in pubs and all that sort of thing. You'd think that the counting system would legislate for that. Yeah, it probably doesn't.
I don't think it does. And how many of them turned over as soon as they realised that Britain's Got Talent was on the other side? Because if you do, certain pubs I've gone into on a Saturday evening, that's the nonsense they'll show.
Well, to be honest, I had the football on, and when Crystal Palace scored their 3rd goal, and I realised, okay, game over, that's it. I turned over to Britain's Got Talent and saw singing dinosaurs doing rock and roll, and was far more entertained.
Oh, really?
Well, you can't compete with that, can you? Let's be honest.
I mean, that was quality television. I'm sure that's why more people watched it than Doctor Who. Yeah, but you're right. The previous week, I think Doctor Who had a jump start on Britain's Got Talent. This week, it was starting after Britain's Got Talent, and they're now in their live shows as well. So that's these aren't the pre-recorded auditions or anything like that. This is the live stuff, which tends to get an uplift in viewers anyway. Their numbers are down anyway because viewing figures generally are down. That's why we're not just looking at those raw numbers. We're going to look at other stuff as well.
Absolutely. There's a couple of people in the chat mentioning this weekend, so we're going to come to that. But GD is with us saying, no wonder the BBC and Disney have not bothered to commission a third season, as it's all there for you to see. An utter failure across the board on all the viewing figures. And that's the point. As I've said before, Doctor Who is now a very, very expensive show to produce. And if it's not going to have the revenue come back, and if it's not going to have the viewing figures, what's the point? What's the point in continuing it? I just don't understand it. They are. Stephen Braddock saying, well done, Bedweer.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah,
just also saying, no such thing as a coincidence.
No.
Yeah, and the problem is it's now getting lower viewing figures than other stuff in that slot.
Yes.
So the slot average is, it's underperforming for that time slot it's been given.
Yeah.
Which if you're controller BBC One, you're not going to be happy with.
I still don't understand why, because I still think the around about the 6 o'clock time is a good time for Doctor Who. 7 o'clock time, because that's the time it came back in. That's what people remember that slot.
Yeah.
And also don't forget that the Eccleston Tennant series, and even the beginning of Matt Smith, was this time of year. So something's definitely got wrong. Doctor Who and its production teams are out of touch with the great British public as well as the viewing public of the world. And we know why. She'd have been in the devotion saying, good evening, Bedweer. And then Woodhouse122 is saying, weather is going to be nice for the bank holiday weekend. So I have a feeling it's going to be another drop. And Paul Schlefter is agreeing with that. No one will be watching this weekend. Everyone will be out enjoying the sunshine. I predict a short-term bounce back. So this is leading me to say once again because this may sound nonsense to any of our friends who are out of the UK and go, what? I have to say it again. It's true. It's absolutely true. Our weather in the UK, as you may know, isn't reliable, and it's never usually that good. When we get a few days of very warm, sunny weather, the TV does not go on because we find better things to do. It's a great tradition. You can go to the seaside, you can go into the country, you go out into the garden. Barbecues are suddenly lit all across the United Kingdom. It's just like the old days where they used to say the Vikings are coming, light something. It's amazing. So it's actually true. Now I know that if Americans especially go, yeah, what?
No, you mentioned snowing most of the time. That's the problem, isn't it? So,
as you said earlier, JT, I used to work in cinemas, and
you did, yeah.
If it was a hot, sunny day, we'd have hardly anyone in, unless it was so hot they wanted the air conditioning.
Yeah, that's true. It honestly, it's so true. We find
you don't want to do anything indoors. If the sun's out, we're out. Simple as that.
Yeah. Derek Hart is saying to us, I wonder if the ratings will have increased if these episodes were shown in January, given that the weather is up and people are out. I know what you're saying there. I actually do think that January would have been better. But then the Christmas episode this time round didn't hook them at all, as we mentioned. Joy to the World did not hook them. And I think trying to capture them around the time that Bedweer's show came back, Gladiators, but I think that could have been a strong Saturday night possibly for the BBC as well. Gladiators, Doctor Who, whatever else they wanted to put on, but obviously Disney didn't want it on in January.
It's a shame because we talked about this last time for season 1, didn't we? That there was potential talk about being in January, or so we thought. And I think the audience missed that because they didn't watch them in the summer, did they? So because the Christmas was okay, wasn't it? John Weaver wasn't too bad at that point. So if they came back in January, they may have capitalized on that, but sadly they didn't, which is such
they didn't.
It's not a shame, but whether to tune out again after episode 1, I'm not quite sure, but yeah.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. Silt Vampy. Hello, Silt Vampy. How are you? I hope you are keeping well. It is lovely to see you. Good evening, everyone from Germany. Unfortunately, I couldn't watch this season. Don't worry about it. You're not missing much. But I had the idea of Doctor Who being in a show back years ago. Did you? Well, It didn't really work for me. Have you seen our review of Lux, Silk Vampy? Go and have a look at that, because I just thought it was ridiculous. It took me out of what little story there was, to be quite. It was just it was the devil's board with the furniture rearranged. It was terrible. But it's lovely to see you, lovely. Hope you are keeping well. Bill Larry is saying, yeah, look, it's a hot day. Quick the barbecue. That's what happens. That's what happens. And Josh H is saying, I think the BGT semi-finals used to be over 1 week and now it's every Saturday. That's not helpful to Doctor Who. Well, ITV know what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Don't forget that back in the day when Doctor Who came back with Eccleston and Tennant, the Saturday boys, as I always called them, Ant and Dec, the giants of ITV alleged entertainment, were thrashed regularly by Doctor Who. Now, over the years, ITV has managed to regain that audience, and they're getting their own back on Doctor Who by thrashing Doctor Who. So when they see that Doctor Who's coming, it's only 8 weeks, we'll do something against it. They're not daft.
No,
and I think they do that deliberately. What else we got?
I'm surprised they're not brought back Buck Rogers, to be honest. But yeah.
Well, I think that would win. Lee Smith is saying to the nudist beach, the one in Brighton. It's very pebbly. Anyway, let's get on again to the next one. You've got this slide for us now, Bedouin.
Yeah, so this is just to confirm where the well placed. So although they're talking up as an increase from Lux, which was the lowest overnight rating ever, it is the second lowest overnight rating ever. So, if that's a win that you want to write an article about Radio Times, you crack on. But yeah, context again, it's still the second least watched episode of Doctor Who on broadcast ever from all 800 plus episodes.
I think what's worse, Bedweir, is the fact that Legend of the Sea Devils is getting more popular as we go on, which is quite worrying.
No, awful.
Yeah. All these terrible episodes that we've had over the last several years, everybody, and look at that. There's now only one Whittaker one in the top 10 of the overnights. The rest of them are all this.
So there's potential for all of Shooties to be in the top 10. That is really worrying, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 3 of the bottom 5 are now this season.
Yeah. Honestly, as Duckula's saying to us here, Doctor Who's as dead as a dodo. Third Dr. Andrew's giving us some laughing faces there. And Jess. Hello, Jess. How are you down under? The more I see and listen to reviews, read the well, how poor the end product was once again shows through. Again, if you look at our review show from it, you'll see that the panel was mixed on this. I was the one, I think, a little bit more that was sort of like, no, can't be bothered. The others were sort of like, oh, it was okay. It actually got quite good scores on the
I quite liked it, I have to say. But yeah. I won't be saying that next week, probably. But
yeah. Join us every week. Eventually, of course, we're going to have the 8 episodes all on the scores on the TARDIS door. So let's see if the well, which is the better of the 3 we've had so far, remains there. So that was the overnights, but what's this one for us?
Yeah. So again, we look at other measurements, not just the raw numbers. So in this case, we're going to look at audience share. So this is the percentage of people in the UK with their television sets on, tuned to BBC One to watch Doctor Who. We've taken out The Church on Ruby Road and Joy to the World. Those 2 Christmas specials are a bit of an anomaly. So this is just the regular season episodes from Space Babies through to The Well. And we can see that, yes, there's a slight uptick in that percentage from last week, but it's less than 2%, 1.9% increase. It's not a massive jump. Again, going back a few weeks ago when we compared Gladiators and how that was consistently around the 25% mark, this is still not really finding a level of consistency as of yet. Maybe it will start to plateau, I guess, and we'll start to see where that consistency is. Maybe it's going to be around the 15% mark, or after we get into next week and beyond, are we going to see a continuation of a downward trend, which has happened so far?
Goodness me.
And again, you can see that same pattern with, if we take Space Babies and the Devil's Quarters week 1, week 2 for Boom, increase for 73 yards, and then a downward slide until we get to the series finale. Is that same pattern going to continue for season 15 as we go through. We've got 3 episodes in. We've had that uptick. Are we now going to see a continuing trend downwards again before we get to series finale, especially if everyone's going to be in the cinemas watching?
Oh, honestly, I'm going to say it again. I can't believe we're actually here looking at Doctor Who having these figures. You know, it's so upsetting as fans. You look at this and you just think it's. But then I look at the episodes that we've watched over the last year, and it's not a surprise. All they had to do was write Doctor Who and produce Doctor Who. That's all they had to do.
And cast a decent actor to play the Doctor, someone who actually has some gravitas and can play the part. And they write it like the Doctor. That'd be nice. Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, actually, isn't it? And then put some decent monsters in it and not be worried about making young people anxious and throwing all this nonsense rhetoric and ideology into all they had to do. Honest to goodness. Don't forget, everybody, You and Eden, if you're in the UK this week, from Monday, Spearhead from Space. The Starting the Pertwee run repeats, everybody, from this Monday. Mm-hmm.
Lovely.
John Cleese and Michael Palin can revive this parrot, says Mark Greaves. And Woodhouse 122 said perhaps Sunday would have been a better day to show Who. No, because that's when we're on.
Yeah, they tried that.
They tried that with Jodie and didn't make much of a difference, did it? Really?
Oh, yeah, she was on the. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, she was on a Sunday, wasn't she?
So I think Doctor Who's now in its history been on every night of the week now, hasn't it? Because Sunday was a new one that hadn't been on. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it must have been because in the 80s it was on twice a week between Mondays and Tuesdays, Mondays and Wednesdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Fridays. Yeah.
I mean, with Christmas days, alternating days as well.
Of course, of course. These figures are so bad that the BBC are considering bringing back Jim will fix it, said GD. Oh my god, they could do it with a different host, I guess. Yeah,
Jim Davison. That'll go down well.
JD.
It's still with the same title, unfortunately. That'd be about unfortunate.
Yeah. Bumps on seats at the time counts. All the other rubbish is desperation, says Forbidden Man. We do have to point out as well that the overnights do matter. As you can see from these figures, the overnights go towards the consolidated. The more overnights it gets, the bigger the consolidated. This is what a lot of people on this platform, as well as on the social media, don't seem to grasp. So let's speak slowly for them, shall we? The overnights matter. Yep,
and we will demonstrate that shortly.
We will. It's great to see you all in the chat. So much to see you. Thank you so much. Anthony Parkinson saying only 10% of the 3 million for Robot Revolution is iPlayer views. It's pitiful. And Rick Storm, season 26 started at 3.10 million and ended on 5. Thor Behind. As of tomorrow, we will hopefully be able to say we're in the final month of this trash. Oh, it is sad to say that, isn't it?
Until the Sea Devils.
Don't forget we've got the spin-off because we keep forgetting about it. It's in my book on the planning thing. Apparently, we get to know when it's coming after the finale, and that makes me think there might be a trailer for it at the cinema thing. So there we go.
It'll be on YouTube after that at some point. I'd imagine.
At the same time, I would imagine.
Probably. Yeah.
Don't get word of mouth, says Pyrolite. Looks was not bad, so if people mentioned it more, we'd watch the next episode to see if it was a one-off. Why I suspect next week will be down quite a bit.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that we've raised previously when we've talked about ratings. One way of looking at it is the next week is kind of a reflection of the previous week. So if you do, if you put up that first graphic again, JT.
Yep. Let me just get rid of that. Yep. Hold on 1 second. The first one, Bedweer.
Yeah. So when we had, Boom, which at the time was the lowest audience, but people actually who'd seen it said, "Oh, it was actually quite good." Then there's that uptick for 73 yards.
Yeah.
That is, logical. As you say, word of mouth, and people reacting to, "Oh, well, last week's was pretty good. I'll check it out." On the flip side of that, you have Rogue, for instance, at a 2.11 overnight, and then the following week, The Legend of Ruby Sunday hits the lowest point at 2.02. Again, if that's a reflection of the reaction to Rogue, that wasn't quite as highly regarded, especially on this channel.
Ironically, again, though, if people did like The Well from last week and there's an uptake from that, then Shooty's hardly in the next episode. So maybe it'll get really quite high view figures.
What you want is a consistent run of good episodes that, oh, well, that was good. I'll watch the next one. Oh, I'll tell my friend, oh, that was actually quite good. I quite enjoyed it. You should check it out this week. you can grow an audience
Yeah.
quite naturally by delivering good episodes in consistency.
Absolutely.
And you've
Yeah.
only got 8
That's what
weeks
we've seen.
to fill.
Yeah.
Surely you can do 8 cracking episodes.
You
Surely,
have to.
You know?
It's like
Yeah.
I said the other night on the Lux
Yeah.
Review. If you've only got 8 episodes, you must. Every single one of them has to be 100% brilliant.
Yeah.
Because you haven't got time to faff around like you have with 13 or 14 episodes.
Yeah, you can't do the fluffy episode to start like New Earth type show. Or
No, you've got to have the
Something
good
like that,
drama,
yeah.
what people
Yeah.
expect. But but having said that, so far out of the nonsense I've seen, if the Notwees were going to come to Doctor Who on this particular version of the Doctor, I'm glad it would have been the Well, because it had some sort of semblance, and it, as I was saying on Sunday, Bedouin, I was wishing the episode to just go on, a bit more, and it didn't quite get there for me. Doctor Who Mania is joining us in the chat. Hello, Doctor Who Mania. Why does viewing figures determine if a story is good or not? 8.6 out of 10 for The Well being the highest rated story since Capaldi's last season. Well, actually, I don't think that's worth celebrating. Capaldi was dismissed from the show, allegedly, years ago. That's nothing to celebrate. They should have been consistent all the way through. It's, as I've said, Dr. Who Mania, and welcome to the channel, by the way. Nice to hear from you and your points of view. But I've had fans say to me over the last 6-7 years, bad Doctor Who is better than no Doctor Who. No, it's not. I'd rather have no Doctor Who than bad Doctor Who. And to say that this was the best one since Capaldi, that's a long time. No wonder the audience and the fans have left it. That's ridiculous.
I do agree, though, that lower viewing figure doesn't necessarily mean the episode's bad. It's just people aren't watching it. Because if you look at like the War Games or something, an episode of that got quite low viewing figures. But
the original War Games.
Yeah, original War Games, not the colour one. No.
No.
But yeah, so I mean that just proves that fact that good telly can get low viewing figures. But the trouble with this is people aren't coming to it because they don't like what they're doing with the show. I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
And who's there?
I would be interested to know where that 8.6 out of 10 comes from, but that's just purely from a number geek side. But it isn't, as we just made the point, if The Well was good, I haven't seen it, don't plan on watching it, but if it was good and it encourages more people to come back the following week and the week after, then great. Hopefully we could, the show can buck the trend as it is now, where it is losing viewing figures consistently week after week, apart from the odd blip for when week 3 of a series or the series finale, then great. Finally it might hit its stride, but we're just reporting on the numbers we've seen so far. This is we're kind of setting up for the next five weeks to come, because that's really gonna show if it's lost an audience. It's really crucial because the BBC can't put stuff out that nobody's watching.
Yeah.
Because they can't justify the money they're putting into it. They can't justify the time slot. Because it's just not, that's just not how you run a television channel.
And an increase in figures didn't save season 26, so it's not going to happen, is it? Let's be honest.
No. Raymond Williams is getting back there saying audience share chart is the best way to show how popular Doctor Who is. Blink only 6 odd million, and that was low back then watching it, but had around 40% of the audience watching. Doctor Who Mania is coming back with a couple of things, so I just want to take the time to address Doctor Who Mania. Why make a big song and dance about it? Well, because we're fans, and this is important. As Paul and Bedouin were just saying, this is important. If there is nobody watching the show, there is no show. So do the show properly. It's as simple as that. So making a big song and a dance about it. We're fans. This is what fans have done all of fandom, of Doctor Who fandom, getting back and talk about it. Even more so since, and you probably weren't around or know about this, since 1985, when the R word first became part of our vocabulary, rating. That's when the BBC made it very clear that the ratings were important. And to be honest, they still are to this day. And for content, says Doctor Who Mania, Blink got 6.62, yet is being regarded as the best story of the revival. Yeah, true. It's true.
But you can't deny, though, whatever defense you try and give it, that people aren't watching. As simple as that,
Yeah. And I mean, this is not so. We're not making a song and dance about it. What we're trying to do on this channel is provide context that we don't feel is being provided elsewhere. Other commentators are purely stating the numbers and giving an interpretation given their position, their views on the show. What we're trying to do is just provide that wider context. And what we've seen is a downward trend of audiences moving further and further away from Doctor Who. And as fans, as JT's pointed out, that concerns us because, if there's no one watching, the BBC aren't going to make the show.
Yeah. Although I still firmly believe that BBC Studios, who are now in charge of our beloved show, desperately want it to remain on. They know they have something there. They know they can make money for it. Unfortunately, they've been putting their faith in the wrong people for several years now, who have had their own agendas and their own looks at this. And that's why it's out of touch now. It does need a rest for a few years, just even 3 years, to put together a new production team and get it realigned and have good, solid adult in the room meetings about why this thing isn't working anymore. Chorus Sci-Fi and Fantasy is saying, evening folks, did you see that Tom Spilsbury had to correct TV's own report on the ratings for The Well? Also, have you read the Guardian's article? Yes, stay with us for that one. Tom Spilsbury, yes, I saw that because there was confusion on Sunday morning when TV Zone put over the wrong overnight, which is a bit daft. So yeah, but let's get back to this. So where were we? We had the overnights there, didn't we? And we've had that one there, haven't we?
Yeah.
But that's it. We're going to this one now.
Yes. So again, if anyone remembers our sort of stacked cumulative bar chart from last year, this is how we get our various elements. So the bottom in blue is our overnight figure, our starting number. So we now have that for The Well. Yes, it was 1.86 million. It was earlier reported as 1.9. It had been rounded up for whatever reason. Again, whoever made that editorial decision, it's entirely up to them.
It's propaganda. That's what it is. Yeah,
indeed. But now we've also got the 7-day rating for Lux. So that was, 3 million viewers is what is being reported, but it was actually 3.004 million. So it was actually, 3,004,000 viewers. So, give it a little bit more credit. But that increase from overnight to +7 was an increase of 1.42 million viewers. So that's relatively consistent with the increase we got for the Robot Revolution, which was at 1.52. So we talked previously, I think, about the increase being around 1.45 sort of figure for jumping up to our +7 figure. So, I mean, that's great. That's a 90% increase on our overnight for Lux, but then it had a fairly low starting point anyway.
It did. It really did. Oh, this is really tough stuff to watch, actually. The Well was boosted by the footy end of, says Cody. Dr. Who Mania coming back to us saying, all I'm saying is viewing figures do not matter anymore, considering it's been going downhill since Tennant left in 2010. A rise in Whittaker's first season, but even that failed. No, there wasn't a rise in Whittaker's first season. There was the rise in Whittaker's first episode
1.
And then it went down from episode 2 and has been going down ever since, bar 2 episodes in Whittaker's. And one possibly in Gatwa. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we've been showing this all the way. It's been going down every single continual week for all those series. As fans, it does matter as well, because we have to say why. Why are fans not watching the show now? And it's obvious why.
Can I ask? I'm assuming that Doctor Who Mania likes the current era because they have Shooty as an avatar there. So I wondered if maybe you could tell us, or they could tell us if they're a fan, because they're trying to defend this. I can understand that if they're a fan. Fair enough.
Yeah, and that's great. If if people are enjoying it,
it's fine.
Good,
Yeah,
brilliant. But not many of them are.
Like our issue is that Doctor Who used to be watched by a general audience, and that general audience has moved away to watch other things.
Yeah. Dr. Who Mania must be new to our channel, because he's also said to us that the TV landscape for most shows these days aren't getting what you just mentioned in response to somebody in the chat. Right across the board, not a single show has stayed consistent. Now, what I'm going to say to that as well is that, again, is pure propaganda to put out there to justify a failing show, because they do. Bergerac, for example, the brand new version of Bergerac on U channel has had fantastic viewing figures, enough to commission a second season and a third season, allegedly. Definitely for the third, definitely the second. All Creatures Great and Small has been going now for 6 or 7 years because it was getting good, steady figures constantly and building up an audience on Channel 5. We've had massive hits on BBC and ITV, including things like Unforgotten, Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. And the point is, if and when these people in the industry put something together that people want to watch, they will come and they will watch it and they will tune in all the time.
Yeah.
But you're right, the viewing figures for everything across the board is down. So the big question there is why? Answer from me, because they're producing crap that nobody wants to watch. And unfortunately, Doctor Who is now part of that. They don't want to know. But the viewing figures are. We've proved it on this show through these analysis.
Yeah,
you know?
and we don't just look at Doctor Who. When we're looking at charts and where it ranks certain weeks, etc., you can see that numbers are down. Britain's Got Talent, their numbers are down from where they used to be, and that's because the TV landscape has changed. There's more streaming. There's lots more other things that draw your attention and your eyeballs and all that sort of stuff, and that's fine. And this is why we're also presenting things like the overnight share, because I think that that's more reflective of the TV watching audience than just the raw number. Again, providing that context that other reporters on other channels and other sites do not provide, in my opinion.
Well, yeah.
Not that there are already. Stay on Who's Views.
No, exactly. It's only this one. What are you talking about, you freak? We've got here as well. The spin-off nobody asked for, says Jason Parker. After the non-event, which was class, some dolt commissioned another spin-off for a failing show. I wonder who that was. Especially for a 2 to 8 episode series, cringe. The other thing you're saying there, Bedwyr, that is very interesting, of course, is that there's more competition now. Doctor Who has to compete with millions of other channels and itself in its previous incarnations, as we're going to be seeing from Monday on New and Eden, when John Pertwee is back as the Doctor from a series that is now 55 years old and it's being played continually every day. Those ratings will matter because
there's so much content out there. It's
pushing together. Yeah. So that's the problem. And the other question we need to ask is: Doctor Who just suitable for today's viewing audiences? Is this a sign of it does need to be rested properly? Because it's not at the moment. And let's wait for everything to settle down. I nearly caved in, says Super 11. Watched The Well, but I've still not watched any Gatwa. And William Orlocks 86 is saying Terry Nation did 13 fine episodes with Blake 7 Series 1. RTD2 can't do it. Aided. Yeah. Talking about Blake 7, don't forget, if you are a Blake 7 fan, we've got Blake 7, our next review, on Monday, the 5th of May, which is a bank holiday here in the UK. So come and join us. Jess. Totally agree, but we don't need to not have decent quality Doctor Who. There are mega good writers, producers out there, but the RTD has taken over thanks to being bankrolled. Again, it does. I don't know. We've been through that. I mean, I don't know what he's playing at. It's very much, as far as I can see, the tick boxing element, the entire DEI. And don't forget that we have reported on headlines that the BBC itself is spending over 80 million British pounds on DEI projects. How ridiculous. It's absolute nonsense. Right, so where are we up to now? Okay, this one, Bedwyr.
Yes, so with that increase of 1.42 million viewers from the overnight for Lux, we can now see that 53%, so the majority of that 3.004 million plus 7 figure comes from the overnight. So once again, yes, the iPlayer viewers pre-transmission and post-transmission do make up quite a lot, but they don't make up the majority. The overnight figure is crucial in dictating what our plus 7 day rating is.
And there it is again. Again, it just proves it. These are facts. These are absolute facts.
There's not a lot in it. Okay, admittedly, there's not a lot, but the overnight is still crucial because it makes up the bulk of the overall figure.
Yeah, it does. And there's a lot of people out there that don't realize that. Bless them. Bless them. They should be looking at us a bit more. The adults are here in this room. You do realize, says Dr. Humani, that iPlayer is there for people to watch the show whenever they want. Hence why the 28-day figures were introduced in 2018. Of course we do. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why on the first slide we had a purple line that had the 28-day figures that we've had so far for Series 14. We haven't had any for Series 15. But the increases from +7 to +28, those additional 21 days, it's fairly minimal. It's not a lot.
It's not a lot. And yet you look at some of the big players. Let's go back to talking about Gavin and Stacey at Christmas and Wallace and Gromit. You know, and this is where, again, Dr. Humani, we can prove you wrong. No show is getting 10 million anymore. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Because, again, they proved that people wanted Wallace and Gromit and they wanted Gavin and Stacey, old favourites that have been off the air for years. And they went back 10 million plus. And still, if you want to go for it, winding them up on iPlayer, a huge figures for those. Again, it's producing shows people want. That's what we're suggesting here. Doctor Who could only dream of 6 million viewers nowadays. Yes, Blink was low, but the ratings overall for that series were higher than 6 million, says Paul Schlefter. We also have to say, of course, it's actually unfair to compare because they've changed the viewing figures completely since 2005. In 2005, for 4 or 5 years, it was the overnights that always mattered, the bums on seats. And then they changed it, the BARB changed it for all this nonsense that comes on after it. And it's never been the same since. And even though they've tried it with all this 4 devices, 28 day, 6,000 day, it's still not working for Doctor Who.
But getting back to what you said, really, if there was a demand for Doctor Who, people would watch it either on the night or watch it immediately, and the figures were really high. But there's no interest in it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah, and I think in our first sort of ratings analysis, we looked at season openers, and you could see that period where the gap between overnight and +7 was fairly small, you know, for Rose, because iPlayer wasn't such a big deal, and that gap, you know, widened and widened as people got more and more used to using the iPlayer. However, that gap has now shrunk and narrowed again because fewer and fewer people are now going back onto the iPlayer, having missed it on broadcast, to catch up. Again, that's another point we're trying to get across.
Yeah, exactly.
I think inevitably as well, we're saying it's now a 20-year-old show. It's been on for a long time. It's not new anymore. So it has to try harder to make it appealing to people, doesn't it? You know,
and that is extraordinary in the modern era. You know, the biggest shows in the world, Game of Thrones, you know, Big Bang Theory, all those... Everything that's been big at one point or another, nothing gets to 20 years these days.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And I think that's why they have to do something about it now. At this point, they have to take it off, even for 3 or 4 years, as I say, 5 minimum. You could certainly reset the show in 5 and get it sorted, because it can be done. I still passionately believe Doctor Who can be huge if the right people are involved with it. Derek Hart
is involved as well, definitely. Yeah.
Only way you can get decent Who again, says Derek Hart, is a new scriptwriter, showrunners, and who are not Who fans. A strong cast, stop stream service, so it's live on BBC, no before time, and it's currently at AM. You're never going to get the iPlayer stop now. They've invested too much in it. Personally, as I've said before on the show, I think the iPlayer should be the BBC's future. Scrap the license fee and get people to subscribe to a new version of the iPlayer, which is a subscription service, and put all your shows on there. But I think they're cowards, and I don't think they want to, because that's how they're going to realise how out of date they are with the British public.
I would be interested if they hadn't dropped it like midnight last year and 8 o'clock this year, if it would make any difference to the actual live figures, potentially or not.
We will look at the transmission numbers later.
Yeah, it's coming up. You know full well, though, that the British public don't give a hoot.
No.
They're not there. They are just not there for Doctor Who. And we're getting very closer and closer every week now to seeing the real number of alleged fans that are now watching the show, because we know that millions of fans aren't.
Yeah.
Rose Kirby is saying, one thing that puzzles me, why only have overnight for television? Why not have phone, iPad, computer, and iPlayer? Do people only watch on the television?
The way the rating systems work is so convoluted that no one's properly explained it. There's a thing called 4-screen, which tends to be the 7-day consolidated number, If you go on another Doctor Who related site, they will give the TV only number. But the BARB, who are the main body that counts all this stuff, they now use a 4-screen where they factor in phones, tablets, laptops, all that sort of thing. Anything you can access the BBC iPlayer on, and factor those into the +7 and +28 day numbers. I don't think the system's in place to do that as live. I might be wrong, because in theory, if you're watching a live broadcast on the iPlayer on your phone, that would be a part of the overnight number. But because you have the option to rewind and start it from a different point and all that sort of thing, then that's probably why that's taken out of it, if that makes sense. But then that would be factored into the +7.
So this is all the stuff that shows how out of date the BBC is, because the BBC, of course, is still paid for by law by the British license fee, which is the British taxpayer paying for it. And millions of us now in the UK don't, and we do not watch live television, and we do not access BBC resources, the iPlayer of which is one. And yet we've got generations now that have grown up with television being available on their phones, which I still think is ridiculous. You're going to kill your eyes, knock it off. But they do, and they watch this sort of thing, and yet they're not paying license fees.
It's interesting. Maybe you can explain this to me. You can actually watch live on iPlayer in HD when it's broadcast, can't you? So is that technically still a broadcast viewing then?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I don't know how often they do it, but sometimes there's a 4K that you can only access through iPlayer.
Yeah.
They've done that on a few sporting events, I think. That sort of thing.
So that's still counted as a live view then if you do that then? Like watching a broadcast, I mean.
Well, it should be if you're watching it live, but if you've rewound it, then
it's complicated, yeah. Okay.
Until someone comes out and formally explains what counts for what and how long you have to watch for it to count as a view, there are more complicated breakdowns of like 15-minute slots, 20-minute slots, whatever it is that people within the BBC will have access to. But the general public, don't really have that. So
the frustrating thing is that surely if you watch the entire program, that counts as one view. If you watch 15 minutes or half an hour, you turn off. You're not engaged in the program if you stop at halfway through. Surely, you know what I mean?
Exactly, and like these numbers that we're reporting are all averages over the episode.
Yeah.
So it's all about averages when it comes to these sorts of things, anyway. So but it's reflective of the average of the other shows. Yeah.
Can I just say to Doctor Who Mania as well? We have a saying in Liverpool, which is "calm down, calm down." Because he's saying to us here, "I'll bet every penny I own the show continues. It's this side of the fandom who wanted to be cancelled for whatever reason." Listen, I don't like this talk. I'm going to tell you now. Grow up. There are no sides to it. If you are in a fandom, you are in a fandom. And I'm sick and tired of people coming along saying, you've got to be over there and you've got to be. That's what causes this nonsense that we're in now. So please, get a grip. We are fans of the show. And yes, we don't like what is happening to our show at the moment. And we're proving that the majority of fandom and the majority of the British public don't like what's happening. But we want to see Doctor Who healthy and big and back where it belongs as a flagship of the BBC. Now, the BBC is in enough trouble. It needs things like Doctor Who, but we don't want bad Doctor Who. And we are criticising it because it's not as brilliant as it used to be. You've also said here as well, people can't take the new version seriously because they can't take change. Knock it off. That's just stupid, and that's grasping at straws. Stop it. Come and have a reasonable conversation with us.
They can't take it seriously because it's ridiculous. That's the problem. It's not being taken seriously in itself. That's what the problem is.
Yeah.
And we're showing that this version hasn't
is this what they call what's this? Is this what they call a troll? If the show is cancelled for Doctor Who Mania, it won't be to do with the writing or the acting. The fandom has dragged it down and dictated what they want. That's
really
stupid. That is absolutely stupid. The fandom doesn't care.
This is Russell T Davies, isn't it?
The fandom was told to go away by Whittaker and Chibnall, and they did, and they haven't come back. You know, and then they were told by Gatwa, go and touch grass, and they did, and they haven't come back. And I can tell you that the fandom is still there for the original 26 years of superior time travel telly, because we can see that through the incredible sales success of the original series on Blu-ray, including season 7, which is still in the top 10. Where's Gatwa? He's in the hundreds. No, this is the sort of thing that annoys me about it. It's not to do with fans dragging the series down. It's about the fact that the public isn't watching it. Please have a decent conversation, keep your accusations outside the room, and treat everybody with respect, because we are adults. We are not children, and we are not shit stirring here. These are facts that Bedouin has put together. If you don't like them, go and watch another channel that's more to your liking, quite frankly. But please, if you are coming to be with us, be a grown-up.
Guys, I'm glad we're not writing this show. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? We know plenty of people. Trevor Baxendale, for example, Gareth Roberts, for another example, who could do a better job.
Yeah.
You know, better job than these people he's getting in now. RTD, no pun intended, but he's lost the plot. He hasn't a bloody clue anymore. I guarantee you this nonsense that he's writing for Channel 4 next year isn't going to be any good, and will not get. We will report. We're not going to watch it unless we want to, but we will report on the figures, on the viewing figures for him next year. I'll tell you, we will. Tidy Boy, nice to see you. I don't like the current era, but these days many people don't watch TV live. They wait until the series is over and then binge watch it. So maybe for an 8-episode series, 8-week figure would make sense. I disagree. Doctor Who is a mainstream show on the BBC, like with other shows, Tidy Boy, that do bring them in. If you are writing a decent a brilliant Doctor Who series with the Daleks and the Cybermen, the Monsters of the Week, good stuff that will engage with the audience, and more importantly, a bloody good actor who understands how to play the Doctor, which is not what we have now, will come.
I pity the poor sod that's watched eight episodes in a row. I'm sorry, but honestly, God help them. Yeah.
I mean, much of what we're trying to point out.
Somebody's taking the pee, by the way. This isn't real. This Doctor Who mania. I don't refuse to at all. I've been watching since 2005.
Oh well, that means you're a qualified fan, then obviously, clearly.
Is that Ian? Is it somebody from another channel? Wasn't Gareth Roberts fired for being a transphobe? No, simply, no. Get a grip. He wasn't. I can tell you about that, but I'm not going to bother.
Yeah,
frankly. Go on the bed.
We've looked at other eras of the show, and the difference was the general public was watching in their millions.
Yes.
They are not watching this show now. Doctor Who was getting national television awards, and it was everywhere. It was, it was massive. 2013 when we had the 50th anniversary, it was huge.
Yeah.
Since then, the general public's gone, no, I've kind of gone off it now. It's all a bit convoluted and I don't really get it and I don't like what they've done with it. And so they've stopped watching it. And that's what we're highlighting, is that it's gone away from the stuff that worked, now 10, 15, 20 years ago, and is doing other stuff that appeals not to a general audience. It appeals to a specific core minority and is, as a result, shedding viewers, as we're pointing out in these numbers.
Yeah,
it's lost the essence of Doctor Who. It's not Doctor Who anymore. We're used to changing actors all the time, changing characters, companions, etc. But it's lost the essence of what was Doctor Who, I think. That's the problem.
It's like we say in the review shows, Paul, you can't even, if you are a not-wee tuning in, you can't even see who the bloody Doctor is, because the Doctor in Britain is a guy that's wearing a cricket outfit or a question mark jumper or a black leather, whatever. There's a unique look to the Doctor, and that's what people hone in on as a not-wee. Go and ask your families. The long scarf to this day is still iconic for the Tom Doctor. But you can't see it in this one because he's changing his bloody outfit every 2 minutes. Pyrolite is saying, can't handle change is a lazy defense. Here, Pyrolite. Change is the domain of the majority consensus. If something does not have viewership, it's not the majority consensus. Well said. Common sense. And just from Lex, thank you very much for your super chat, Lex. Mrs. Flood appearing in each episode is just a copy of Susan Twist from the 60th anniversary episodes and 2024 episodes. RTD2, it's time to go. It's boring as well. She was always wearing the same outfit on Saturday, wasn't she, Paul?
Just about, yeah.
Well, Well, okay, so let's get back. Everybody stay with us in the chat, but let's get back and we'll go back to Bedwy's latest like with this one. So this is the rating +7, is that right?
Yep. So our 7-day rating for Lux puts it at the lowest +7 rating ever for, as long as we've had +7 ratings. Again, we've talked a bit about how these are, combinations of, in Doctor Who's case, the pre-transmission number, but also the beyond transmission. So those catching up on iPlayer, have recorded it and watched it at a later time on a digital set-top box, all that sort of stuff. So when it comes to the 2005 era, Lux is the lowest. Fact.
There it is there.
So it's not that people aren't watching it live. It is also that people are
not
not
watching
catching
it.
up with it either.
Goodness me, look at that, everybody. There it is there. They don't like it, as we've just seen from our guests there. They don't like it, but these are facts. These are the official figures. They are there. And these are terrible. These are, I'm going to say it again, as a Doctor Who fan, this is embarrassing. A few years ago, i.e. at the start of the Capaldi era, everything was looking so good when he got the gig. When he got the gig, everybody was, the majority of fans, everybody was still there. We were thinking, oh, it's Peter Capaldi. Phew, it's an actor coming off the back of the wonderful Matt Smith, continuing that strength. And then he got those awful scripts, didn't he? And then dire scripts and poor Peter. And then they had to go, oh, DEI rules now at the BBC. Get rid of Capaldi, bring in the woman. And it's gone down from there. And what a shame.
At least Capaldi was watchable, even when the scripts were bad. He was Sean in the episodes.
Yeah. But who could have seen this coming? Well, quite frankly, anyone with any decent common sense, because DEI doesn't work.
Well, it did for one episode. And, we've pointed out in our season openers, if that first episode with Jodie Whittaker had blown everyone's socks off, it had been a new version of Doctor Who that was amazing. And that, Jodie Whittaker, completely captured the public's imagination as a new version of Doctor Who, they might have stayed with the show.
I have to say that Women Who Fell to Earth, compared to the 2 seasons we've had now, I think seems quite a good episode in comparison. Really, honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this. Honestly.
I mean, I haven't seen it since it went out, but I think if Chris Chibnall, if this first the one idea that he's been holding on to for ages is a alien bloke who sticks teeth in his face.
Ew, that's style.
If that's the villain that you're gonna kick off a new era of Doctor Who with, I think you're in trouble.
Emergency psychiatry, please. Get you there, Paul. Don't worry, we'll book you in.
Thanks very much. Yeah. I've got the straight jacket. It's just over there. I'll put it on.
No, it's over there. I'm sure it is. Put it on. I believe our visitor has now left us, but it was nice to hear from him. Seemed like a nice boy. That's all I'm saying.
Did he leave any parting comments before he left? Any more sweary words?
But it's Who's Views. I just don't like it when people resort, and I get it all the time, of course, being a gay man in this mad, crazy world where you're not supposed to be same-sex attracted because you're some sort of ot or phobe or obsessed with people's genitals, quite frankly. I can't be done with it. I'm too tired with it. If you're going to come into the chat, be nice and just be a grown-up and have a conversation. Agree to disagree. Don't come in and start hurling.
It's the same arguments that, I've been attacked for putting together this, these sorts of numbers and presenting them in this way. And I don't have any, particular skin in the game. I'm not watching the show. It doesn't appeal to me. I am fairly neutral when it comes to whether people are watching this or not. All I'm trying to do is provide context about the numbers that we see. And that's my right as, a sentient being that knows how to work a laptop.
We need another straight jacket, JT. Sorry, just saying that.
We've seen that there.
But and so like if people are enjoying it, great. The only point we're trying to make is that the general public have walked away from the show, and we're questioning how long a show can continue when it doesn't have an audience.
It's also the majority of fandom have walked across, and as I keep saying, I'm going to keep saying for the next couple of years, I can tell you now. All he had to do was bring fandom and the public back, and this thing would have been bloody huge. And BBC Studios, you would have been making money. You would have been making money. You would have been planning 3 and 4. You would have been out there filming 3 and 4 now. You would have been out there, but no, you let him push this far left nonsense into the show where people just went click. You are out of tune with the fandom and the British public, and now, embarrassingly, the worldwide public. How are you supposed to do something which is going on about all the issues? How are you supposed to show that in Africa or the Middle East? Come on, honestly.
But that's the thing. It's very embarrassing, isn't it? It's embarrassed itself all around the world, not just on the BBC, which is really worrying. You know,
and us, because it's now got to us again, where people look at you funny when you say you're a Doctor Who fan. You know, they get ooh. Sean Oliver, good to see you. Hope you are well. I really wanted Jodie to work as the Doctor. I'm a massive fan of her work. Go and stand in the corner. But it was awful and it was preachy. Why couldn't they have, Why couldn't they have done similar to Janeway in Star Trek? She was amazing as the lead. My big thing about this, Sean, of course, is that was totally different. There is no reason under no reason at all under any sky why there couldn't be a female captain in Star Trek. No reason at all. But there is a reason why you can't have a female Doctor Who, because that was established in the original series. He was a male of his species and they couldn't change their gender.
Yeah, I watched the Jodie Whittaker era. I wanted to like it. The issues I had with it were that they didn't have an idea who the character was.
Yeah.
You know, the thing I always point to is one week she hated conspiracies, the next week she loved conspiracies. She ran around, you know, saying, "Oh, I'm socially awkward." No, that's not how you portray someone who's socially awkward. You do it in what they do, not that they spout the line.
Yeah,
that was the issue I had with it. And having watched, what was it, The Church on Ruby Road and The Legend of Ruby Sunday, I just didn't enjoy those 2 episodes of Shooty Gatwa that I watched. It didn't feel like Doctor Who, and I didn't want to watch any more of it. Yeah. So I haven't.
Yeah. We've got Rob here with this guy saying Jodie got 10+ million. All the sexist and racist gave her a chance. They did. The story, the acting, the whole look of it. And then they left. They gave her that chance. You get one chance in this game sometimes, as she proved and has. This version's proved. And Heretic is saying to us, I'm sick of our fandom. If I have to either rapidly like Chibnall or RTD2, and if you're just someone who wants good Doctor Who, you're abused by both sets of fans for an opinion. That's the problem with it now. And again, it's not just that, it's society as a whole. For some reason, we've bred a couple of generations that are judgmental, and they come at you judgmental with already formed opinion. And I think it's ridiculous. Janeway was not a regenerated Picard, said Robert Payne. She's one of my favorites as well, Janeway. Quite happily watch.
She was tremendous,
Beautiful performance from Kate. In any, even the poor ones, she's brilliant in them. Plymouth Who, you pander to a minority and you get a minority audience. Is a perfect example of irony, if ever there was one. Yeah, I suppose there is, really.
The thing is, we said before, it pains us to criticize this, to hate it as much as we do. Or certainly you and I, GT. But I want to like it. I want to like Doctor Who again. I so much want to like it and enjoy it. And that's been taken away. It's horrible. You know?
That's the annoying thing, isn't it? And we're not invested in it as much now. So we're not buying the merchandise. We're not buying the magazine. Days numbered on the magazine. I am absolutely certain. How much merchandise do you see now coming out of this version? It's ridiculous. You know, there's not as much as there used to be, is there?
And what does that tell you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Character Options apparently are saying they're not going to be producing any more from the Gatwa series because they're going to concentrate on the proper series, i.e. 63 to 89. You know, do you remember when it came back? Huge success, 2005 for several years. Look at what they produced. Look what was going on. You could look at this room. There's a lot of nonsense in here. I suddenly realised. All right. So anyway, let's get back to your ratings report. Where were we? We've done that one, haven't we? That was the rating + 7. We've done this one. That was the rating +7.
So this is the next one. So again, to kind of factor in some of the criticisms about how we report these numbers, some people would say that to make fair comparisons to the classic era of the show, we should take the overnights of the classic show and factor in the ability to watch on iPlayer after the event and all that sort of stuff. So
how long have we got?
I know. Well, the best comparison should be with the +7 ratings and the overnights of the classic series. And for the first time ever, we've gone under the 3.1 million that Battlefield Part 1 got in 1989, with Lux at only 3 million. So even if we're taking 7 days of potential viewing for Lux, it's now it's less than what Battlefield got on the night back in the day when it was broadcast.
Hooray!
I know we've been waiting for this one, but
We
here
have
we
been,
are.
yes.
Hashtag justice for Battlefield, as
Exactly,
Paul playing on
yes.
the center. But there it is, everybody, in black and white there. Battlefield Part 1. There you are. See? Now, it's also worth pointing as well, and I would like to do this as well, is that, it's we do that, as Bedweer said, because of the criticism we get for these sorts of things. So, yeah, it's nice to see it as well. But back then, in 1988, 1989, 1990, and well into the 2000s, it was the overnights that mattered. That's how the BBC knew about certain things. And I'm going to say in Doctor Who terms, Doctor Who returned with Rose in March 2005, got tremendous viewing figures on the Saturday night. And that's what pushed Lorraine Hegarty. When she got those figures in, she immediately said there's going to be another 2 series.
I still say, if at that point in 89, when season 26 was on, if you recorded the episode and you count those recordings as additional views, then imagine how much Battlefield would be up to compared to what it is now.
Yeah, so if we're factoring in the ability of modern audiences to use digital set-top boxes to record and watch within 7 days, factoring in the iPlayer, it would be nice if we could factor in people using their VHS recorders back in the late 80s, which were becoming more and more common
as well. Let's be fair.
Handful, 1 or 2. But yeah, that would again be a more reflective of the actual audience. Unfortunately, the system wasn't in place to do that, so we are going on just what was broadcast and the viewers it got.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. John Roberts, a lot of you celebrating this for Battlefield. John Roberts saying, what's the viewing figures for the whole Battlefield story? John, I know you're going to stay with us. We are going to be reviewing Battlefield after this version of Doctor Who is done, as a tribute to the late Gene Marsh, who died a couple of weeks ago. So we're going to be looking at Battlefield, and we will put the viewing figures for that in part of the introduction there. We'll look at it. Okay. So stay with us. But I'm looking forward to that one because I haven't seen Battlefield in years. And Paul Schleff is saying Battlefield is a great story. Going to watch it this weekend. Well, he's well ahead of us then, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm very fond of it. No spoilers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, get ready because we're going to be doing the review. Your scores on the TARDIS stores. It's all on the way. And Rick Storm is saying the consolidated 36-year figure for Battlefield is 26.2 million.
Yes.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
Can
Can you write that down, Ben? I have that.
we've got to add the 1992, 93 repeat. All those figures have got to go in because that's Reach.
Reach. Yeah. In the original sense.
And we're very patient, aren't we? Let's be honest. Yeah. So.
By 1989, everyone in the UK had a VCR of Raymond Williams and Rob. Current viewing figures are a joke given the ways to consume. Many fans so much, yes, people rightly, well, we've just had some of that as well, haven't we?
Yeah.
Farsight is saying, I've still got my tape of Battlefield. So do I. It's over there in a box from the nights it was on. Monday nights, wasn't it? Against Corrie. Oof, that was, oof. Woodhouse 122 states was out to record all the McCoy era stories as my mum wouldn't dare miss Coronation Street.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how many people experience that? Loads of people, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Julianne, Disney Who isn't fit to lick Battlefield's boots. I can't wait to watch it, Julianne, for the simple reason I've only watched it about 3 times in my entire life. So to go back to it now at this stage of my life that I'm in, I'm really excited about it because I'm looking to see if I'll reappraise it because it wasn't one of my favorites. There were plot holes.
Yeah.
But I always loved it purely for Gene Marsh and Nick, of course.
I love it. It's one of
my
my favorites.
Yeah.
It's coming to you on this channel soon. Stay with us. And nice to see you, Jordan C. Hope you are well. Hi, guys. Nice to see you and to join you again this evening. Well, it's good to see you. We're in the middle, of course, everybody, of Bedweer's rating analysis that's come out now. We've just done that one then. That was the ratings for +7 for all of Doctor Who, including the original classic era. We're going then to this one, Bedweer.
Yes. So in my pre-recorded video last week, I suggested that I'd seen it reported that the Robot Revolution had done pretty well in terms of pre-transmission numbers. The number has since been corrected and it's made quite a big difference. So instead of being a massive, 910,000 viewers, it was actually only 91,000 viewers. Now that makes a lot more sense given the context of where we were to start with, in that it hadn't got over 300,000 for Series 14. We can see that it gradually increased, and people were getting more and more used to watching Doctor Who in advance on the iPlayer, peaking with The Legend of Ruby Sunday. But now it seems to have dropped back down. So whilst Doctor Who's losing viewers on the overnights, it seems to have also taken a hit in those that are actually watching in advance. Now, these numbers aren't confirmed. My source, for instance, claimed that 74,000 viewers was the number for the Well.
Yeah.
I think, given that we've had the +7 for Lux, I would expect that number to have been for Lux rather than the Well, if that makes sense, because we wouldn't have the Well's pre-transmission necessarily until it's coupled into the +7. But either way, if we're back down around 100,000 viewers watching before it's broadcast on BBC One, then we can see that it's not appealing enough for people to actually watch it beforehand. So if we're talking about that core audience, that fandom that really wants to watch this show and can't wait until 7 o'clock in the evening and have got to get on the iPlayer when they get up on a Saturday morning, that number is lower than last year.
I was going to ask, actually. I'm going to ask it now because I've been meaning to do it the last couple of weeks. 8 a.m. on the morning on a Saturday morning. That's assuming an awful lot of this this generation that's so, what's the word? Dedicated to this version of Doctor Who. It's assuming they don't work.
I think committed, I think, is the word you're looking for. Yeah.
Well, some of them should be. But it's assuming that they're not 8 a.m. Now, if you are still in retail, as far as I know, on a Saturday morning still opens anywhere between 8:30 and 9 o'clock in the morning. So you're not going to see it, are you, till later on, or even your lunch break? If you're lucky to get an hour these days, which is unheard of in our country now.
This isn't just people watching as soon as it goes live on the iPlayer at 8 a.m. This is right up until, what was this, 7:20 last week? There's a whole scope throughout the day. But if it's only attracting sort of 91,000 viewers to actually bother to go on the iPlayer to do it, it's again not reflective of a strong show that's really connected with a core audience that is, as you say, dedicated and wants to watch this.
Well, maybe they were better putting it on at midnight the night before on the Friday night, Saturday morning, because nobody was bothering with it then either. So, maybe they listened to too many people.
So it wouldn't appear then potentially that this dropping at 8 o'clock or midnight is actually damaging the viewing figures, is it really? Because no one's watching still.
Yeah.
It's bringing it forward, back to 8 a.m. rather than midnight. I guess, buying that few hours last year might have made slight difference because it technically was available for longer.
Yeah,
but only slightly though. That's what I'm saying. They could have left it there at midnight this year, and I don't think it would have been huge figures again. Because remember last year we were talking about the fact they're putting it on midnight to try and push up that pre-transmission.
Yeah.
To add it to the consolidated, add it to what it gets on BBC One that night. It hasn't worked. It hasn't worked, and it hasn't worked this time around. And I'm beginning to think that people that watched the first Gatwa series just haven't come back for the second.
Yeah.
I think it's a
so if they hadn't put it on at midnight or 8 o'clock, what I'm saying is, though, if that hadn't happened, no iPlayer at all, and people just watched it on the night, it still would be very low viewing figures, wouldn't it, based on what we have in terms of stats?
Yeah, it would still give us, the lowest +7 figure since 2005, because those fans would have watched it whenever it had become available. I don't see it making any change. What will be interesting going forward, again, let's see if these numbers change or get updated again, but to see if it does follow the same pattern where it did increase throughout the series and peak towards the finale. Let's see if that happens, or whether it will just sort of plateau and identify a consistency, and we can say categorically, oh well, there's about 80,000 people that are committed to watch it in advance as soon as it becomes available or before it goes out, whenever's convenient for them. But it's going to be an interesting one to keep track of. But because we've now got two numbers, I thought I'd bring it into people's
Absolutely.
attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, we've got to point out at this particular point, we've got 2 more episodes to go. Lucky Day this week, and then we've got this one with the silly title that I can't remember. The one set in a barbershop. And then the week after is the song contest one, which might not even be on the BBC if the football runs over.
Well, I'm gonna double check, but I don't know if the FA Cup final kickoff time has been confirmed yet.
Oh, okay. So again, stay with us because we're going to be talking about this. Because that's important because we might be here in a few weeks' time saying it didn't get anything.
Yeah.
Because that's good. I think that's going to have a knock-on effect, then, of course, to the iPlayer.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Minkin too is saying, so at 8 a.m., most 18 to 24 people who aren't working would be hungover in bed.
If they're doing it right, yes. Yeah.
Yes. And Moriarty is saying 74,000 people watched it spread across the day prior to airing it on BBC One. Yeah.
So I can see that the match officials for the FA Cup final have been confirmed.
Yeah, that's it.
But I can't see a kickoff time. And as we've mentioned on previous shows, if it's a late kickoff time, much like this week, we were all kind of wondering if it would go to extra time and penalties and push Doctor Who off the schedule. If it is 5:15, 5:30, which the FA tends to prefer because it gets more viewers, that will be a broadcast that does do quite well in terms of viewership. It will get, easily over 5 million, maybe close to 10, depending on, I can't even remember who's in it now, Crystal Palace and Man City. So maybe not. But, if it's going to be a later game, you've got one team from near London, so Wembley travels not too much of an issue, and Man City are usually punished for being so successful. So I would not be surprised if it's a 5 o'clock or 5:30 kickoff for the FA Cup final, and that's going to factor in because BBC schedule's got to be cleared by 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it has to be for the Eurovision Song Contest. Tyler Durden Smile, nice to see you. I watched it prior to broadcast, so my view wasn't added to the overnight, but if it wasn't for Who's Views, I wouldn't have watched it at all. Well, don't hold it against us if you didn't like it, please. And
we're the same. Yeah.
Yeah, Sonny Waffles is reminding me, the one after it's called The Story and the Engine. Of course it is.
They're such catchy titles, aren't they? Yeah.
Oh, it's just, honestly, they're just, no, it just doesn't snap with me, I'm afraid, these titles. Pete Harrington is saying, the kickoff is at 5 and penalties.
Yeah, this is what we factored into last week when we were talking about whether the Well would be show or not, and we thought that if everything had gone to plan, the game would have finished by around 7 o'clock, and they just had to wrap up, analysis and all that by 7:20. If again it's a 5:15 kickoff and it does go well, if it goes to 7 o'clock, Doctor Who's in trouble, because if it's a 45, 50-minute episode, they've got to get off before 8. It's going to be tight. And if it goes to extra time and penalties, they are stuck. But we'll see. The kickoff time, as I say, is not confirmed. So if it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it won't be a problem.
Stay with us, because, of course, we're going to be talking about that as we get nearer to that particular episode and more information comes out. I think it's going to be a very interesting episode for them to cover now here in the UK, because there's lots of things happening. Rick Storm is saying to us, in the old days, the episodes would have been bumped back a week, which would upset the Eurovision episode run date. Yeah. Also, they can't, because for some reason now, what you've got is a series here that stops on a particular date. It's in the story.
Yeah.
And obviously he's not bothered to think about, the Eurovision's on at that time of year, or there might be some football or other sporting event, or there might be a final of a big show on.
I don't understand why that matters why it matters in the fiction of the show. So it can be broadcast anytime it's within the fiction of the show. Why it's live to that date seems a really bizarre thing to consider. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's really foolish, isn't it? It's a good job they managed to start the series when they did, because they clearly factored it into, we want it to end on this particular date, and we want episode 6 to air the week of Eurovision. You're just asking for trouble, really.
It also shows you as well that the power of Doctor Who has gone a little bit, because in his first run, he could snap his fingers and the whole of BBC One would adapt to suit Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And it was a marvelous feeling as a fan to see, my God, we've gone from that to this.
And that's part of the problem. They've lost respect for it, and it's not got that gravitas used to have.
Yeah, because it's not getting it's not pulling in the figures, so it's sort of being pushed down there, isn't it?
Again, this is where viewing figures come in. We were speculating again last week if The Well wasn't going to get shown. You had episodes of Pointless Celebrities and Blankety Blank, which are both new episodes. Well, if you're looking at your schedule, thinking, oh, which of these am I going to bump off? Oh, maybe I'm going to drop Doctor Who because fewer people are watching that than watch Blankety Blank and Pointless Celebrities.
Which is sad.
That's how it factors into decision making. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us here on Whose Views Headlines, your Wednesday big show. It's good to see you all. RTD presumes everyone will watch, says Robert Payne, because he's been spoilt in his first era. Mostly they did. They really did. And bearing in mind that this was all done, as we keep saying, at the same time as the first set of episodes with Gat, where it was back to back. I genuinely think they were expecting it to happen again, and how wrong they were. Not there at all.
I think we all felt like that, didn't we? We all thought, oh, this is going to make a huge difference. It'll be so much better. It'll come back again as it was. Yeah, and it's not.
It's exactly why I think a lot of us are feeling like, I certainly do now. It's very lethargic and just sort
disappointed.
of disappointed. Yeah. Shocking. When Grandstand was on, did Doctor Who get cancelled or postponed then? As I recall, Doctor Who was still aired, same when Eurovision was on the same night, says Derek Hard. Yeah, because it was on earlier. On about 5:15, 5:20, wasn't it? And Ron Sapp is saying to us, Doctor Who is dead here in the US. We used to have big displays of Target books with a real neon logo. Oh, how lovely.
Nice.
Quite camp. Menkin too, agree. Sports aside, even other channels would clear their schedules to avoid clashing with Doctor Who. ITV certainly did for years. They were so worried about when the Doctor was coming back because the Doctor was smashing Anton Deck for years.
Yeah.
And Jordan, I love Eurovision, and if RCD thinks he can gain grows from a Eurovision fan, he's mistaken. It will be a fringe episode with probably a sing-along song. Eurovision will get even more viewers. I'm very delighted today to hear that the Eurovision people, the producers, the organisers of the thing, have banned the progressive LGBTQ plus I blah, blah, blah flag. And they've told the performers, knock off the woke. Allegedly. I'm delighted by that because there were so many complaints last year from normal people around Europe, including Britain, who didn't like what they were doing last year. So they've all been told to tone it down and none of those flags. So my friends who are going again, even though they had a terrible time last year, I hope they feel a little bit safer and a little bit more comfortable this year in that massive auditorium because they didn't last year. They really did not like it, which was not like them. They've been going for years. Absolutely years. Hiya, Shelley Engel. How are you? It's nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. And Paul Schlefter saying to us, I have a feeling the BBC will be quite happy for the song contest episode not to be shown live on BBC One due to all the controversy around the writer.
I agree on that one. Yeah.
I would have hoped so, but we'll soon find out. A few more weeks here on Headline.
Then they commissioned.
What was that?
Oh, sorry. It was commissioned with that writer and, intended to be on the same night. So, where it would be interesting at what point the scheduler for BBC One or the controller of BBC One, whatever positions they still have these days, when they became aware of this.
Well, 3 years is a long time. A lot has changed in 3 years, and the Supreme Court ruling was only a couple of weeks ago, which has really hit the far left hard, hasn't it? Because they're all kicking off about it and crying in their cornflakes.
Yeah.
Jason Parker telling me the progress flag is aggressive and literally pushing the gays off the end. It's a horrid comic crap. I'm not going to disagree with you there, Jason. I hate that flag. And Paul Rose, I did notice on a YouTube channel the other day that it has a Doctor Who billboard in LA. That's the first US advertising I've seen for this season so far. Well, you're not going to see much more. Honestly, I did see that actually. I saw it on X, but. Look, I don't know. Well, anyway, Bedria, that was great. Thank you so much for that update on the ratings analysis again. Thank you for your hard work. Always good. And obviously tonight as well, a great discussion over it as well. Brilliant. But as I'm going to say again, you can't disagree with truth and reality, and they are the figures. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's just maths, people.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Bedweir. Thank you. You're going to stay with us now, aren't we, as we go on to our next
Yeah,
story?
why not?
Actually, Julie Wendy's saying, do you think the FA are withholding the kickoff time for the final to wind up RTD? Yes, I think they are.
I do hope so, yes. Yeah.
They love it, they do. They're not going to tell him until the Saturday afternoon. That's what they're doing. Yeah, but got another story for you here now, everybody. Let's see what you make of this, because this is, I've had this for about a week now to put into the show, and I think this is the show to put it in. This is from thecritic.co.uk. Bearing in mind what we're calling about the media that's going around at the moment, what do you make of this one? The end of Doctor Who. The Doctor has become deeply embroiled in a battle he can't win. The culture war. Mike Bartlett. Now, I have to state at this particular point, I can't stand this term, the culture war, because it's not a culture war. It's lies and there's truth. And the truth is the truth. And we've got all these people attacking the truth for ideology. As far as I'm concerned, that's one of the reasons they should never have closed the mental asylums in this country, because that's where they all belong. Let's get into this story then, everybody, see what you think. Time does weird things as you get older. Just ask Doctor Who. It seems only yesterday, 2023, that a returning RTD was saving the aging show from ratings oblivion with the help of a budget injection from Disney+. As the second run of this revival materializes on Saturday nights with more of a whimper than an unearthly wheezing groaning sound, this is a fan, can you spot it?
Yeah.
The big story is that this series looks certain to be the last for the foreseeable. Doing the media rounds to talk up the show, the usually ebullient, is that right? Ebullient? Davis has appeared curiously downbeat. There might be a pause, and during that pause, young viewers will grow up a few years and start writing stories, and they'll bring it back, he told the BBC's news round. The official word is that no decision will be made until the current series is aired, but RTD appeared to be speaking from a future where the show had already been put on ice. The next day, news broke that star Gatwa was committed to the theatre for 2025 and likely beyond, ruling him out of a new series of Who. How did Whovians, I hate that term, end up in this worst of possible timelines? Some will argue the show isn't scary, funny, or engaging enough for children raised on Fortnite and YouTube. The truth is that the Doctor has become deeply embroiled in a battle he can't win. Time wars are one thing, but there is no winning the culture war. By virtue of having a lead character who can be literally anybody these days, Who is almost uniquely vulnerable to the culture wars. Who the Doctor is now seems less important than what the Doctor is and which identity group he or she represents. Blech. This sort of identity politics has latterly become an increasingly toxic front of the culture war. The abrupt failure of Disney Who highlights a shifting in the cultural sands away from hollow representation and a tendency for pop culture to lecture its audience. In short, people seem tired of the culture wars. Literally no one cares about any of this guff, former showrunner Moffat told The Times at Christmas. You know, maybe a few fatuous media lovers like me, but check the bus queues in restaurants in Britain. Go and listen outside the living rooms. Do you think they're talking about any of this bloody crap? Clearly nobody told this to Davies, who spent most of his press rounds for the past series gleefully stoking that conflict. When he wasn't telling off the audience for wanting a monstrous and iconic villain to still look monstrous and iconic, he was berating them for not noticing all the characters in one story were white. You're part of the problem. Even a massive Disney budget couldn't sugarcoat these poison pills, despite the show working hard to win hearts. Casting rising star Gatwa, best known for Netflix hit Sex Education, was an inspired attempt to lure his young fans back to a creaky show. And certainly the scripts have aimed to make Gatwa's Doctor as cool and approachable as possible. Gone is the alien, weird, an intellectual, yawn, adventurer, in his anti-fashion threads, cringe, and in his place is a sexy young man, swoon, who emotes relentlessly, snogs other sexy young men, and wears a succession of painfully chic outfits. There is always a risk that updating a folk hero will strip a character of his core values. The Doctor has forever been a champion of free thought, speech, and action, while the show has traditionally held a mirror up to society without seeking to alienate its audience. This, as creator Sidney Newman understood, is the purpose of science fiction stories. They're a marvelous way, and a safe way, I might add, of saying nasty things about our own society. By contrast, Modern Who and its fans seem to revel in alienating the wrong sort of people. Examples, Gareth Roberts and actor James Dreyfus, to name but two. It doesn't help that allegory has gone out of fashion in modern science fiction. Creators and their fans fear being misunderstood in case any ambiguity emboldens the enemy. What was once subtext, those nasty things, is now the main text and often directed bluntly at a diminishing audience. The Who faithful will say that in our streaming age, as we've seen tonight, by the way, ratings don't matter. Nobody watches broadcast TV, except when they do. The show has been sliding out of the mainstream since Capaldi was in the TARDIS, but viewers still tend to return in droves when they expect it to be good. Both Whittaker and David Tennant, too, drew in big crowds who didn't always stick around. People will still watch TV if it stops telling them and turning them off. The Disney deal was designed to help the show find modern audiences where they lived, with the mouse dollars ensuring the Who ensuring, oh, I've missed a bit there, never mind, there it is, ensuring the program looked like it belonged alongside the streaming bit hitters. But there is a universe in which slashed budgets work to the show's advantage. We've seen it before. Unable to compete with glitzy imports, Who once had to be the cleverest, funniest, and scariest primetime drama on a budget soap operas with pity. It found a loyal audience not by pandering, but by treating its viewers with enough intelligence to imagine a rustling sheet of foil could bring a world to its knees. Likewise, it dared to imagine young viewers could admire or identify with an eccentric gentleman adventurer dressed for the Edwardian revival, whose one superpower was being smarter than everyone else. Every fan has a theory now on how to fix the show. Mine would be to dare to go for suspense and smarts over spectacle. Encourage young viewers who will always hate a lecture to lean in rather than away. Trade expensive faux cinematic scale for thrifty domestic folk horror. What we don't see scares us more. This kind of television does still exist. Overnight ratings for the 2023 edition of A Ghost Story for Christmas, made on a shoestring budget and shown in the very definition of a graveyard slot, were comfortably of a piece with those of Who's most recent run. Variety claims 1.75 million viewers tuned in for the Christmas Midnight Creepfest, whereas the first episode of its minted Piers new season barely broke 2 million in a sweet Saturday evening spot. And then we've got this. As the BBC attempts to navigate diminishing budgets, it could learn a thing or two from that graveyard slot. Small can be beautiful, and maybe we can tolerate programming that dares us to pay attention instead of assuming we need instruction. Likewise, there is value in art that takes us away from our present moment and its suffocating value system. Good television needs not to be a manifesto. It can sometimes just be good television. And in 2025, of all years, maybe we could all do with some high quality escapism. What are your thoughts on that?
I have to say, can I say that this drives me crazy. Doctor Who never set out to be cheap. It never wanted to be cheap. I didn't like Doctor Who because I thought it was cheap. That drives me crazy. You know, it can have a budget and be a high quality program. It's the writing's the problem. You know.
Yeah,
I think the Disney money actually became a problem, because then there's this expectation that you've got to spend it, you've got to put, all that money on screen. And I think since 2005, Doctor Who's kind of made a rod for its own back, with season finales having to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And for that sort of scale, it required a massive amount of CGI work. And actually, when Doctor Who works at its best is when, you don't have, not limitless budgets, obviously there are budgets, but that scope, because it challenges you to be creative in restraints. Restraints actually support you. If you talk to any writer and say, right, I want you can write whatever story you want, they'll look at that blank page for much longer than if you say, right, I need to have, 3 leading actors, I need to have this monster in it, I need to have only 3 sets that I can build, work within those constraints. And they're like, oh great, that's a challenge, and I can put something together. Talk to writers, that's more exciting and generates more creativity than if you say, we got loads of money, just do what you want.
but you can still do, a big budget space opera like Frontier in Space for that kind of money, and then do Base Under Siege Tour the next week. Because you don't have every week does have to be massive big budget. You know what I mean? But it can still have high quality effects within the context of that genre. Surely, you know what I mean?
And the way the classic series kind of, they'd have, episodes where, the money was running out, which meant they had to be more creative. And because they were limited, it became, we can only do 2 sets this week, so you're going to have to work within 2 sets. And it became more claustrophobic because everyone's working within that environment. Whereas when you can open it up, and this is a criticism I've had of more recent animations, when the whole idea of adding scale makes it more impressive is a nonsense. Actually, you're diluting the drama, and closing it back in makes the viewers feel that claustrophobia and tap into those fears and things like that. And good drama really benefits from viewers engaging in that sort of feeling, rather than, oh, look how pretty that CGI Dalek is just whizzing around. Really,
they did the reverse on the Savages. Savages had a massive scale to it, and they made it smaller, which is really awful. They ruined that, as far as I'm concerned.
One thing that Disney Who has done for me over the last couple of seasons now, including this one we're at now, is showing you that Doctor Who shouldn't be a huge, big, multi-million-dollar production, because it has taken an awful lot away from the show. What happened to imagination? Why do they have to explain everything, show everything? Why can't you just put the pieces together as it is? Why can't you just write decent lines so that the audience puts 2 and 2 together?
I think you could have both, as long as the script from the start is actually functioning and works really well. If that works well, and the story's the key element first, and then you can add the effects as the icing on the cake, effectively.
But it's silly things, Paul. Like for me, like putting a ramp in the TARDIS.
Yeah, that's just, what is that about?
That's about. I mean, as I've said before, K9 was getting in and out of that box for years.
It's due to the wrong priorities he's going for. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that would have cost money.
Yeah.
And has it been used since? No. Is it going to be used at the end of the season? Possibly. What a waste of time. What a stupid thing to do, just to tick a bloody box.
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't watch it, but Space Babies is an episode where you're thinking, surely they've come up with the idea of, well, if we've got this budget, we can animate, infants to talk.
But they couldn't. That was the problem.
But what's the story around that?
Yeah.
Whereas I personally love the 1960s era of Doctor Who, because they go everywhere. It's nothing is not. They didn't think, oh no, we can't do Marco Polo. That's ridiculous. We can't do that. We can't.
Doing the Gobi Desert in the studio was madness, but they did it brilliantly. So.
Yeah, we can't do the mountains of Tibet. Oh yeah, of course we can. It's fine. Like they found a way of making those things because the story was key, and they had strong stories that they wanted to tell, and they made it work in a tiny cupboard in Lime Grove or wherever it was. And that's the creativity that Doctor Who's lost, in my opinion, because they've got to come, and the competition is fierce. You've got millions and millions of pounds being spent on a single episode of television that's being streamed across the world, and because Doctor Who is sci-fi, and you've raised that expectation of we've got to have massive space battles and enormous spaceships and things like that. I love physical props, and we've seen a lot of that stuff come back in with the Blu-ray set of Blake 7.
Blake 7, yeah.
Yes, that's been supplemented with CGI and stuff like that, but there's still a physicalness to those effects. And this is true of the cinema industry as well, because people have got bored of just seeing CGI smash fest at the end of a movie that doesn't really connect anymore.
It looks rubbish as well.
It looks like a computer game, though. That's the thing. It's like watching.
Yeah, I mean, the technology's moving so quickly.
Call of Duty or something,
It looks daft. But from my point of view, I totally agree. We've got some people in the chat. We'll come to you guys now, who are agreeing with this as well. Thank you, Lex, for your super chat. Classic Who is a lot more action and adventure. It is, and it's science fiction. you know, for some reason the android invasion has popped into my head. You wouldn't see that in any of the episodes today, would you? Not even that element of sci-fi being in there. You know, Paul Rose, let's go to you. A good article for once, but I agree with Paul too. You can have both a budget and a good show. It doesn't have to be either or. Craig is saying to us, you can tell Gatwas Who is for young viewers. It doesn't lecture at all. Terrified Monk, but without the Disney money, how would I get my Britney Spears fix?
I don't know what they spent it on, to be honest, because some of it, like some of the space sequences are brilliant. But if they had a big budget, how they couldn't do Space Baby CGI with a mouse properly, that was awful.
We've got some people in the chat saying that to us. Jordan C is saying, I don't see any budget being used the last two series. It just looks the same. So I don't know why Disney has gotten involved, because they thought they were onto a money earner, because it was another science fiction franchise and they want to own them all because they were bloody greedy. Jess, one showrunner in charge of the cast, the script writers, writers, and production. So why all? Well, you might know my opinion on showrunners. I don't think it suits these shows at all. Don't want them. I want a producer back and a script editor. Digby, a small budget encourages people to use their imaginations, much as I love Daleks by the thousands. Yeah, I mean,
but that sequence in Parting of the Ways when all the Daleks come out the ship flying through space is amazing. But having that every week, you don't want that every week. You want a contrast. You want a difference.
That's the first time we see it, we think, oh, amazing. Yeah. And then they replicate it over and over again, and you're like, I'm bored of it. Well, now we haven't got Daleks, and to be honest, if there was a Dalek episode, I'd watch. But I don't know how good it would be.
You're not going to get one. What else we got here? Thanks for joining us, everybody. Lee Smith, classic Doctor Who had great aliens, robots, spaceships, and sets on a low budget. And Paul Rose is saying you can have a budget heavy and budget light episodes as long as it all looks good. It doesn't have to be laden with CGI all the time. Peace is saying to us, lots of cash bereft of creativity and imagination. That's its current mode. This is the deliberate ploy to send the show into oblivion. Sonny Waffles is saying every artist knows that principle. Constrain breeds creativity. And Lee Smith, he's basically saying I'm CGI'd out. Yeah. Bill Larry's also asking a fabulous question here. What did Horror of Fang Rock cost?
Well, a
catering budget of Disney Doctor Who, probably. Yeah.
But it's a good point because Horror of Fang Rock, of course, is a classic, small, and yet the story is huge, and it's done beautifully, isn't it? That is how to create attention. Absolutely brilliant. Digby, Midnight was cheap but wonderfully taught. Spearhead from Space was big and elaborate. I
mean, the Spearhead from Space is shot on location on film because of necessity rather than invention, and a lot of studios, I get the point, but you there are examples of both.
The budget went to a big screen and boom, expensive cameos for celebrities and music licensing rights, says Terrified Monk. Now this is the question of where does the money go? Where does the money go? And when you have expensive cameos, because they are going to be expensive, plus you've got to pay for the writers, as we know, because that's why Russell said, why would you give episodes away to other people? That's why they're all joint most of the time, because you get at least you get something. It's all money, money, money. But also as a production, you've also got to cover not just staffing, not just set building, but you've got electricity these days. You've got your studio space, if indeed that's involved, taxis, accommodation, travel fare, all this. It's a lot of money. It comes to here. Project expenses expand to fill the budget, says Mudcrab. Exactly. Ron Sapp, budget cut and they made Pertwee earthbound. Hello to Matty H. Hollyland. Chris Chibnall came to my birthday party once. He sat on the cake. He swapped all my Doctor Who VHS covers around and said this is how they should really be, and then stole all my sausage rolls in my Doctor Who bag.
He's a swine, allegedly.
What else we got here? John Roberts is saying to us that Old Who always felt like a TV version of a stage play, which really worked because it was. That's how television was run back then. You still had the 3-wall sets. That's how they did it.
And it has evolved, Yeah, another element was that sort of rehearsal period that you would have, way back in the 60s, they, work through the week and then they record on a Friday or whatever it was. Now it's all rehearse, record. You have one sort of read through and then you rehearse the scene on the day and then you record it, like a film kind of. And I think particularly actors miss that rehearsal period because it helps you iron out all those bits of what's my Oh,
Motivation. Yeah.
Thank you. Motivation for this scene. What's the previous scene? Instead of, they're very much reliant now of the director of, should I be out?
It also builds rapport with the fellow actors as well. You get to know them better, and you get a better relationship. That's the thing.
But it also helps to understand how your fellow actor is going to deliver a line or play the part.
Yeah.
Because I swear I've seen in some television, and maybe Doctor Who, this version of Doctor Who, there's an element of surprise.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been rehearsed. We say, oh, they've delivered it that way, and I've now got to react to that.
Yeah.
Julianne is saying, I haven't noticed that the special effects looked any better for Disney Who than BBC Who, to be honest. I have wondered where a lot of that money has gone. They should have spent it on good writers.
I'm going to speculate that anyone who's watching Unleashed, note how many people are behind the camera and what, how big is that crew?
Yeah.
Massive.
Yeah, really. It's shocking. They've all been paid by this budget, I would imagine, allegedly.
Well, yeah, they all cost money, and fair play. They deserve to be paid for being there. But
exactly,
again, it feeds back into the wider ecosystem of Doctor Who, not just.
Yeah. Plus, of course, the Sea Devil thing that's on the way. The Sea Devils, please. Shard Knox is saying Doctor Who is a British, quirky, eccentric, family-friendly sci-fi show. Well, it was. They've completely forgotten what makes Doctor Who the show it is, and now we've ended up with Disney Who. Totally agree. And that's the thing. We've got to give it back to people that understand the importance of Doctor Who. And as I say, what I would do is ignore the last 20 years because there's so much baggage, far more baggage than the original 26-year run. I'd ignore it and just do a soft reboot or even go for it and have Doctor One. And then you can go anywhere you want to because it's not the same show as this one isn't now.
There was an interesting bit in the article that you read out, GT, about the Doctor identifying with people. He's an alien. That's the whole point.
Exactly.
You can't relate to him. He's the alien. He's the stranger. He's the mysterious figure. It's the humans that are the ones you relate to. So the Doctor's not relatable. It has to be alien. It has to be different, not humanized.
Yeah. Well, we've seen that, haven't we? We've actually seen that 100% in these series with Gatwa, and since the David Tennant version, really, I can't speak for the Whisker model, but it has been all about representation and identification and all this sorts of stuff. But totally, we've said on the show before, he's an alien. He's a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey. Get over it. He's not a human, but Russell has made him a human. Crying every 20 minutes. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? There is no adventure in this rubbish, says the Forbidden Man. And Just Jordan is saying, can you imagine Gatwa and a Dalek? Babes, no extermination. No, I can't. I can't see Gatwa opposite a Dalek at all. And God forbid he ever met proper Davros.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen because he hasn't got that.
If you go back to Victory of the Daleks, which is not a fan favorite episode, but Matt Smith is brilliant with
I quite like it.
Dalek. I love it, but I know fans don't really like it because of the Teletubby Daleks at the end. But the actual his confrontation with that Dalek is absolutely brilliant. He's got the spanner and everything. That's superb. I can't see Ncuti doing that ever. Having that gravitas, that confrontation.
No, he can't. I think it would ever happen. I agree that Matt Smith was very good, but at that point they seemed to be caring about the series. I genuinely now don't think anybody cares about this. And actually, when I say that, I remember Verity Lambert, God love her, because she accused the production team of 87, 88, and 89, didn't she, for not caring about Doctor Who
and not taking it seriously. Yeah.
And I think this is the same now. So the parallels here are incredible because I don't think they care. I genuinely don't think they care because they've just gone, woof, look at this. And when you look at the episodes, everything's wrong. Everything, for me, everything is wrong in these episodes of Doctor Who. And I generally just think they've taken the finger off the pulse and they say, we don't care. Let's just churn something out and keep ourselves in a job and make ourselves look good in the industry. Because that's all they ever seem to care about. Take all the awards, buy brand new hairdos and lovely shoes and glasses and all this sort of stuff. It's all about them. It hasn't gotten very far, has it? It's a
Yeah.
shame. Jordan C, sorry, by the way. Jordan C is saying, will there be another Gatwa series? I can see it happening. I have an inkling, but that doesn't mean it will be mind-blowing. The finale will still be shown in cinemas, so I wouldn't be surprised. Jordan, I don't think there's going to be now, because he's gone off now to do this brand new Shakespeare show in theatre. That's a long run. So there's certainly nothing coming next year unless they come together with money, and it's going to be a lot of money to do 2 or 3 hours at the end of next year. But there's no Christmas special this year. There's no doctor in place at the moment. There's no companion in place. Everybody is out. Everybody's gone. The production is in the dark. Go on, Bedouin.
I was going to say that every show is an audition for your next commission.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a writer, if you're an actor, you know, if someone, casting director, commissioner, whatever it is, sees a piece of work that you've done and likes it, then you're more likely to get more work. And that's how the industry works. So I don't think it's not that they don't care. I think they're perhaps at a point where they are beyond feeling like they need to continue to deliver great material because they'll get commissioned for the next thing anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like Ncuti Gatwa's gone on and done this play as you're talking about. He's done other stuff. Was it The Importance of Being Earnest and all that sort of thing? So like he's getting work almost despite Doctor Who's relatively modest.
All in theatre, though.
Yeah. So what's going to happen in the next 10 years beyond this? You know, where's RTD going to be in 10 more years? Is he going to still be getting commissions from Channel 4? You know, it's an interesting question.
Well, like you say, if this current era Doctor Who's treated as a showreel for Russell T Davies, then he's not got a career ahead of him. Sadly for him, there we go.
The fact is as well at the moment, because the way the industry is, it's poisonous. It's still DEI obsessed. I have had several people from readers of the stage getting at me over the last couple of weeks because I will support J.K. Rowling and I will support the Supreme Court's ruling. And they're all kicking off it. So I go back and say, oh, grow up. There's a difference between your pretend world and your real world. You live in the real world. You work in the pretend world. Get on with it. They don't like that, by the way.
I just love that image of J.K. Rowling.
They're all mental.
Sorry, I just love that image of J.K. Rowling smoking a cigar rather than saying, I like when a plan comes together. And that was a joke.
But they don't like that.
I know, but
yes.
it's meant as a joke, you know, but it's no sense of humour, honestly, seriously.
No, they don't, and they don't understand it because they don't understand the reference to the A-Team.
Yeah.
And you know, some people are deliberately not understanding it.
Yeah.
You know, because they've jumped on a bandwagon. They hadn't even gone and looked at the original tweet that started all this nonsense off.
They never do. They never have context for it. That's the thing.
No, they just jump on the bandwagon. Oh, you're bad. Again, it's branding, isn't it? That's the wrong person. That's absolutely ridiculous. Minkin is saying to us here, how many sensitivity consultants do you think they have on set? How much are they charging by the hour? How much was that woman we reported on headlines charging to be on this? You know, what exactly are they doing there? You know, in my day, these people would have been called, oh God, what was it called? Movement coaches or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, showing you how to, in certain scenes, how to hold a girl or whatever, you know.
Well, they did that. They did that with the Cybermen and stuff, didn't they? And various other people. And then I think I've forgotten. There's a Paul Casey now. He's Monster Movement person now. Apparently. So
yeah. But the thing is as well. What we're saying about this particular role is it's there to do with all this thing. We'll mention John Barham.
Yeah.
You know, it's to do with that side of the industry, isn't it?
Yeah.
People having a sense of humour that is now very much not allowed. RTD is irrelevant now, says Paul Rowson. Nice to see you, Paul. Let alone in 10 years' time. He is absolutely irrelevant now. And I guarantee you, this TQ cult drama he's writing right now for Channel 4 that goes into production now, starts filming in very short time. I think it's actually in May, for production next year on Channel 4. It's going to be a massive flop because it's already out of date, just like his second series of Doctor Who was. Because he would have written an entire episode to add on to it if the budget allows, or a scene to go in there about the Supreme Court's ruling now and how bad it is. That's in there. I guarantee you. What else? Chorus Sci-Fi Fantasy saying, I love Victory of the Daleks too. Matt was amazing. I just thought it was a bit too daft.
I liked all the Power of the Daleks kind of references and kind of playing on that a bit. That was lovely. And I loved the wartime Daleks. They looked great. I loved all that.
Yeah.
I didn't like the planes going into space. That was a bit too far.
That was a bit, yeah.
That was a bit. That's what kind of Star Wars was like, wasn't it? It's kind of like based on that idea, isn't it? Kind of,
yeah. We've got here from now. I've been calling you Silver Wolf, and you've never said anything. And as as Paul pointed out the other day, it's actually it was Ian actually that pointed out, wasn't it?
I can't take credit for that. No,
it was Ian. He pointed out. You're actually saying it's Sliver Wolf.
Yeah.
So sorry about that, Sliver Wolf. The scary bit about this series is that the first episode got 2 million overnight views, but the 7-day for the second one was only 1 million more.
Yep.
Well, yeah.
It's not connecting.
No. Ron Sapp saying the budget spent on music rights too, and they repeated themselves, didn't they?
Well, they couldn't
afford to have the Beatles anyway. But that was they started off with an idea for a Beatles episode, and then realised that they couldn't afford the rights to have any music in it, so they made it about not having the rights to have the music in it, which is madness. But,
yeah, awful episodes as well. The Devil's Board.
Yeah.
Mad Queen. And that random bloke, nice to see you. 3 million viewers. RTD2 is actually JNT2. I'll always say it though, because I don't like the comparison. John knew what Doctor Who was, even to the last minute.
Yeah, it still was Doctor Who. Yeah.
He tried to do his very best. RTD, like Chibnall before him to an extent, has tried to reimagine Doctor Who to fit his own agenda and his own image, and it hasn't worked.
And what they've done for me, which really I find frustrating, they've really lost what Regeneration was about, and they've really spoiled that concept as well, which I hate, because it's such a fantastic concept and it's just been ruined for me. Yeah.
Shempmeister, it's good to see you. How are you, mate? RTD ranting about gathering in basements and planning and scheming was deeply embarrassing. Yeah, and that other thing, well, everything he says is basically embarrassing, isn't it? But that thing about that particular one was when I suddenly thought, because we had said on headlines ages ago, his next drama will be this, because we'd sort of heard it was coming.
Yeah,
and that's when I started to think he's gone. And now suddenly I'm saying they've all gone. Gat was gone, Verada's gone, the set's in darkness, the TARDIS set is in darkness. It's all gone. But they're committed to actually publicizing this series and this Sea Devil thing that's coming. But they've all moved on.
Well, you see them in the interviews at the premiere when Shooter came dressed as Dick Emery. It was really weird because they almost had lost interest. They just seemed bored when they were interviewed by
going through the motions.
Yeah, they're just going through it. Yeah, just going through the motions basically. Yeah, and it's embarrassing, really. It's like you should be encouraging people to watch this and have enthusiasm to sell it, and they're not doing that at all.
Yeah.
That said, I wouldn't mind if it came back with just a BBC Studios budget.
No, I wouldn't.
Because then they'd have to be inventive, they'd have to be creative, and they'd focus more on story than what can we spend the CGI budget this week on. And CGI is so expensive these days because everyone relies on it so much. It's so in demand. But I think, if you took away that Disney money, but BBC Studios were still keen to make the show, then they'd have to make it smaller, more claustrophobic, more dramatic, and you play on character and you develop better stories to fill your 45 minutes. Then
the thing with that sort of thing is they would have to look at the format. I've said before, my preferred format is still half hour episodes once or twice a week, the traditional way with cliffhangers every week. That's how I would say it, just like it used to be. That's my preferred, with a producer and a script editor that understand the show, care for the show, and writers and different composers and all this sort of stuff every 4 weeks. That's how I would see it. However, you could also look at the other option if it was just the BBC Studios budget of just having 3 TV style movies a year with decent film style scripts and a decent actor. And then he's not committed to a huge run of 9 months of series, for example, filming. It gives him, you can do the 3 back to back if you wanted to. Good stuff. 4, maybe including the Christmas one. And let him get on with other stuff during the year as well. There are ways they can do it, but they really need to get the adults back in the room, don't they, Who viewers, and start talking about this and start talking. I'm hoping they've started having meetings now so that it comes back sooner rather than later, because I can't see anything on air next year.
No.
Interesting discussions tonight, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Bedouia, again, huge thank you for the ratings analysis. Really, really appreciate that. We'll see you next week with the next set. Let's see what happens. Honestly,
Hopefully, it'll be less numbers. There'll be less to count, probably as well.
Paul, as ever, thank you very much. Everybody,
welcome.
thank you. Make sure you've liked, give us a thumbs up for the video, for the show. Make sure you've also subscribed. If you have already subscribed to the channel, please make sure that you are still subscribed. And if you're new to us, please subscribe. It's great to see you. Come and have your say in the chat. Coming up from us next, the next scheduled episode is Headlines on Friday, live at 8 o'clock, as we look forward, ho, 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 to the next episode of Doctor Who, which is Lucky Day. Okay, Lucky Day. And don't forget, your big review show will be here on Sunday, live at 8, with myself and the Whotastic panel, as we give our views and opinions, our scores on the TARDIS doors, and our results for the crying game and the ratings game, as we review Lucky Day on Sunday. Until then, we shall see you very soon. Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you on Friday. From Paul, from Bedouia, and myself, Tra, we'll see you soon, everyone.
Good, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.